Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Well,
here we are.
We're not 2-0, but the sun did come up this morning. The Browns are in first place. Hey, look, I'm just trying to find a silver lining.
They're not in first place. Baltimore is.
Oh, you're right.
Browns
2-0.
are in third place.
Yeah. Well, they're tied for third place.
No, they're in third place.
Steelers
win
winner.
Today, the Steelers would finish second. The Browns would finish third.
I mean, they do have another game with the Steelers.
That is an undeniable fact.
The season won't end today.
I know, but if
that's
it did,
an undeniable fact.
Yes, but so is that they would be third. But it doesn't matter because, Jay, the season is not over.
Not even
Despite
close.
how ugly it was, people overreacted to the win in week 1. They've overreacted to the loss here in week 2. But I will say this. If you're defending Deshaun Watson today, you are flat out embarrassing yourselves, okay? We gave him a 6-game pass for last year.
I didn't.
6 games. Completely ridiculous. Nobody should take 6 games, but I was willing to give him a 6-game pass. Last week, we gave him the weather pass. Last week, he got the weather pass.
He did.
What's the excuse now? Are we going to blame the tackles? Yeah, Jedrick Wills sucks. Jason, who I respect more than any member of the print media, and that is a fact, is completely out of his mind thinking Jed Wills is an average player, and so is anybody else. The guy stinks. He can't play. However, it's bottom line. Deshaun Watson, by far, takes the most blame for this loss. Want to blame the coach a little? Fine. Want to blame that clown Donovan Peoples-Jones who can't catch a punt? Fine. Not only did Deshaun Watson guys play like crap in this game, absolute crap. I don't want to hear any excuses. I made no excuses for Baker. I made no excuses for every other scrub they've had here. I'm not giving up on Watson, but there's no excuses for yesterday. Even worse than his play was that he completely lost his composure. For a quarterback to get called for 2 personal fouls is insane, and he deserved them both. And let me tell you something else. He's lucky he didn't get kicked out of the game. He pushed an official. Are you out of your mind? You're a quarterback, for crying out loud. You've got to maintain your composure at all costs. That's ridiculous. Go ahead, guys.
Tyvis.
See, man, I gotta do it for G because he ain't here today.
Oh.
You know,
G's
sick, by the way.
Talking about play calling.
He be sitting here like this.
G's got Brown's flu.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I do too.
I don't blame him. No, honestly, I've had time to, just sit with it and get my mind right. And when I look at this game, when I looked at it last night, I thought the positives was that the defense was unbelievable. Unbelievable. The defense is the way that defense plays, if they continue to play like that, that will keep the Browns' season alive. They'll keep the Browns able to win games because you're talking about giving up, 13 points as a defense? The Browns could easily score 14. They ended up scoring 22. They should have won that game. The offense, y'all got to figure something out. I mean, yes, Nick Chubb was a big part. And before the season, people sat there and actually asked if we should get rid of Nick Chubb and just go to this air raid. And don't do that. Definitively, the answer is absolutely not. It's not there yet. And yes, the tackles play a huge part of it. DeJuan Jones, I thought, started off. He had a tough big boy job of guarding T.J. Watt, and T.J. Watt is one of the best. He really single-handedly kind of won them that game last night, but.
He did? I thought it was Highsmith that did.
I mean, they both scored. I mean, both of them scored.
The 2 of them. They
but it was Highsmith that caused the fumble. Watt just picked up the loose ball.
Watt made big play after big play after big play.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Both of them. The tackles got to play better. The tackles can really hurt this whole season. And the thing is, I'm interested because the Browns, y'all move very, very courageous this offseason. I mean, y'all, if anything was a problem, y'all addressed it. You got rid of the kicker. You got a whole new defensive front in there. You got a new defensive coordinator, a new special teams coordinator. I'm very interested to see, all right, now at what point are you going to say the tackle is the biggest concern to me? Come on now. Y'all really about to jeopardize the rest of y'all season because y'all drafted this guy. He's not getting it done. So either Kevin Stefanski got to come up with a whole new game plan, but it's hard. I'm not going to say it's hard to get a look on Deshaun Watson, but it is difficult for a quarterback to get a drop back and have to move his feet every single time because the guy's in the backfield. So that muddies it up. But Deshaun Watson flat out did not make the plays that he needed to make. I'm with Bull on this one. He's 100% right. You know, we've given him pass after pass. I'm not giving up on him either. But what I'm saying is, now that Nick Chubb is gone, that safety blanket is scary. Because that was the one consistent thing that every Browns fan depended on offense. We knew when in doubt, get that ball to Nick Chubb. And I don't care if the line is playing good or playing bad. That man is going to find a way to get a crease and make something happen. And now that you don't have that spark anymore on offense, it's up to number 4 to figure something out. And the way he's been playing is scary. Because you're right, we gave him the weather excuse. This one, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. You missed some throws. As a leader, you definitely lost your cool a couple of times. You had 2 personal foul face masks, and I get it. And sometimes you throw the stiff arm and you got the tendency to grab, but the first one, you kind of twisted it in a little thing. It was a little extra stuff that you did. So, listen, it's solely on you. The season will ride or die with the way you play.
That's right.
And you don't have your safety blanket, Nick Chubb. Even Amari Cooper was questionable. He had a groin injury just 2 days ago, and he looked phenomenal. He didn't have no excuse in the world, and he had every excuse to not look good, and he still stepped up and performed and made plays. Why can't you do the same thing? You got to figure it out. You and Kevin Stefanski, y'all got together this whole offseason, talked about it's a brand new playbook. It's an explosive offense, and us Browns fans is waiting to see that. So y'all got to figure something out, because to me, this loss was as bad as the Jets loss last year. I know it was a whole debacle in the fourth quarter, but this one right here was a winnable game. The game was won, and y'all found a way to give this game away by throwing a pick 6 and by fumbling the ball. At worst, as a quarterback, at worst, you can miss every throw for the whole game, but at worst, take care of the football. You do that, you somehow still win this game. So I put it all solely on the quarterback play and on the offense.
My first comment is close to yours. It's never as good as it looks. So the Cincinnati win clearly they're not as good as that looked. And oftentimes I would say it's never as bad as it looks. In this case, with the addition of the Chubb injury on top of the loss, it might not be as bad as it looks, but it's very close. My fear, Nick Chubb will never carry a football for the Browns again. That is a very real possibility.
I agree.
Without trying to diagnose what his injury is, you saw it. Everybody saw it. It was a knee explosion. He had a similar injury in Georgia. I don't think he tore his ACL in that injury. He tore the MCL, the PCL, and the LCL.
That he feared that he was never going to play again.
By the way,
there are doctors that will tell you after that you won't.
Yeah.
Jay, for whatever it's worth, I forgot to mention this. I saw my physical therapist this morning, because I go every Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
And again, he's watching the game. He's not actually looking at Nick Chubb, but he says there's no chance he didn't tear at least 2 ligaments minimum.
I would say
minimum 2 ligaments.
I would be surprised if anything is intact.
Yeah.
To me, it looked like a complete knee dislocation.
It looked like Willis McGahee.
Right? It did.
It really
did. That's exactly what it looked like.
I've talked about on this show how I've torn 3 ACLs, but the first time I tore everything. It was a complete knee dislocation. I needed microfracture surgery. I tore the ACL, the MCL, and the PCL.
Dang,
the doctor, my surgeon, actually told me essentially what's keeping the bottom half of my leg on my body was my skin.
Oh, God.
Everything that could be torn in the knee was completely torn.
Really?
I have never felt like the same human being since that point.
But yet,
I've torn the ACL subsequently twice post-surgery after the first injury. My doctor said, I asked all the people that tear everything, what was the sensation? It felt like I put my leg on a railroad track and a train ran over it. Ooh. It was obviously the most excruciating pain I'd ever been in until it went numb. And when it went numb, I was actually in shock.
Yeah, sure.
And everybody around me was saying, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm fine." Yeah.
How did this
Because
happen?
I stopped feeling it anymore. When you stop, and I think Nick went through that. You heard the 2 screams. I said immediately when I heard the first scream, I said, I know what that scream is. Oof. I know exactly what that scream is. I hadn't seen the replay yet. I didn't really know at real speed how bad it was.
You didn't realize it.
I did. I seen it. I seen
I knew it was
I seen
bad,
his
but
leg, and I was like,
I didn't see
thought
that.
I was like, man, maybe not.
Yeah.
But then when he didn't get up, I said, no, it was what I thought I saw.
Yeah, it's devastating. I want to start this morning by saying, the pain that we feel, the pain that the fan base feels. I was gutted. I almost didn't want to watch the rest of the game.
It was hard.
It was one of the only times
bad.
the Browns have scored a go-ahead touchdown that I didn't cheer. I was still in shock from watching what I saw. And as much as it hurts us, just imagine what Nick Chubb is going through this morning, knowing that he may never carry a football again. The one thing that he's done his whole life that he loves more than anything else, he may never do that again. So the loss that we're feeling over an L in the column is sometimes we forget the human side of this game. Nick is an incredible human being. For anyone that's ever met him, talked to him, come across his path, you know what he is. He's humble, he's hardworking, he's a champion. And
he's the ultimate team player.
Ultimate. I think Kevin Stefanski has said he's the best team player I've ever seen.
It's unbelievable.
And he never complains. He is the model of what all pro athletes should be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my biggest fear was that we're going to have to watch this guy put on a gold jacket one day the way we had to watch Joe, in that he never had any team success. He was a great individual player, and despite his greatness, there weren't enough around him to elevate the team to the level that we all wanted him to go to. So that I wanted to get that off my chest first. Nick, we're thinking about you. This is not the end of the world. It might be the end of your Browns career. It might be the end of your football career, but you're a young man with all kinds of gifts, and it's not the end of the world. Things we learned. Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. They have less talent. There isn't an expert that I talked to in the last 24 hours that told me they would take Pittsburgh's talent over our talent. To a man, everybody I talked to, Pittsburgh is the inferior team. What we learned last night is games aren't played on paper. You've got to have playmakers. And what we saw last night out of the Pittsburgh defense was that they just simply wanted it more than the Browns defense. They stepped up and made big plays when they needed it. They scored 2 touchdowns. It's mind-boggling. Pittsburgh did not have the ball deeper than the 31-yard line at any point in the game. Now, they had a run that went through the red zone on the 71-yard touchdown catch, but they never moved the ball past the 31-yard line. They lost 7 yards in the entire fourth quarter, yet came from behind to win. They did that because the Browns' offense is absolutely done.
Abysmal.
I don't see how they pick up the pieces and move forward from here. They were, from the moment, now I know there was a shock factor. We were shocked and awed at home. Imagine what the players that know and love Nick Chubb were feeling in that huddle. So I'll give them a little bit of slack. But what we learned was, when you make a team one-dimensional, half the battle is won.
I don't think we learned that at all. Jerome Ford played great the second.
Jerome Ford had one terrific run,
and he
which
played
he
great
cut back.
in the fourth quarter, late in the game.
Outside of the long touchdown run, I believe he had 32 yards.
Yeah, but
I can't say Jerome Ford played great. He had one great run, yes. But I'm not ready to say we're going to be fine in the running back situation because we're not. Also,
Jay, I think it's unfair to say the Steelers' defense wanted it more. That's not fair. The Browns' defense played great. They played just as well, if not better, than the Pittsburgh defense.
So again, there's a difference of opinions, Bull. You have your opinion.
Yeah.
I have my opinion. And what I saw last night from the Steelers' defense, every single time they took a shot at T.J. Watt's face, he had the same expression on his face. He was about to take what you have.
He didn't make the game-winning play. Alex Highsmith made the game-winning play. He got lucky that the ball bounced to him.
What was his box score? Read me his notable stats for T.J. Watt.
T.J. Watt had 4 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a pass defended, 4 quarterback hits, and a touchdown. Myles Garrett, according to the box score, had 1 tackle and 1 quarterback hit.
Okay, well, I didn't say he played better.
What I'm saying is, Bull, there's no way that we could. There's no stat to measure effort. You got to do that with your eyes.
Yeah, I thought the Browns' effort defensively was just as good, if not better than the Steelers.
The effort by the Browns defense was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. What was lacking, though, and this is what wins divisional games, was the big play. They had an interception, which they took over on the 19-yard line. You know what they did on offense?
Well, how
missed
is that
field
the
goal.
That has
How
nothing
would
to do with
you
the
blame the
defense,
defense
yeah.
for that?
What I'm saying here is the defense of the Steelers knew, as we did watching at home. I said at the start of
that
the
they had
fourth
to
quarter,
score.
the only way the Browns lose this game is if the Steelers defense scores, because their offense is not scoring. That was obvious to me. The defense knew, and by the way, to rub insult into injury, this offense that we couldn't wait to see. Everybody was like, wait until you see this. We're going to pull the blanket off of this offense, and everybody in the room is going to lose their breath for 15 seconds. TJ Watt said after the game, we knew exactly what play they were running on the strip sack fumble.
That's just a common
He
thing
said,
to say.
we knew
That's a
exactly.
common thing to say.
But if you look at the way it was defended,
Common thing to say.
they sure played it like they knew exactly what was coming.
I mean,
to me, I just saw a Steelers defense
Jay,
that's not as good as the Browns defense
Jay,
that just made the big plays and willed their team to victory.
So I don't know that we know whose defense is better yet.
I still take the Browns defense, no question.
Jay,
to me,
listen.
Tyvis, which defense you taking?
Oh, I'm taking the Browns defense
All
right
day,
now.
every
Yeah.
day.
TJ Watt is the only.
TJ Watt is
He's
animal.
special, and we know that.
The man is an
But-
animal.
I don't think the Steelers defense played any better than the Browns.
I-
They just got.
I don't
They
either.
just got two
I didn't say they
touchdowns.
did.
I
I
would-
said they made the big play.
I would
and
say,
it seemed to me that they had greater desire.
to be honest with you, I would say, and I swear, McNuggets, I'm gonna let you get this read, but I would say that you said that you think that they knew what they were doing.
I didn't say that. TJ Watt.
TJ Watt said he knew
His words were, "We knew exactly what was coming."
If I'm beating their tackles every play,
Yeah.
I don't care what. There's nothing you can do.
No, but I remember when the Buccaneers beat the Eagles, or excuse me, in the Raiders in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It was funny because talking to all of the Tampa Bay defenders after the game, they all said the biggest surprise to us was Bill Callahan didn't change John Gruden's verbiage to the offense. Can you imagine that? Callahan took over for the Raiders after John left Tampa or Oakland and went to Tampa.
Yeah. So when he out
Derek
there
Brooks,
making
Rondé
calls-
Barber, Warren Sapp, they all said the same thing. They said he was at the line, Rich Gannon was at the line calling out their play calls, and they're looking around like, we know what that is. That's our verbiage.
But what I'm saying
And
is,
so they said after the game, when you know what's coming,
Yeah, but
You're
that's not
halfway
the
home.
same thing here.
what I'm saying,
no, it's not the same thing here, but
Yeah.
for TJ Watt to say, without going deeper into specifics, on that play, we knew exactly what was coming.
oh, on that play.
Like,
Okay. Yeah.
now look, there's a myriad of plays you can run. I'm guessing that from the formation, from what they saw, that's how they knew. They didn't know before the play was called. You can't. But when they saw everybody line up, TJ said, we've got it. We know what this is and we know how to beat it. And they did it. And to me, and McNuggets, this is my last point. This offense that was billed as wait until you see it is boring.
We still trying to see it.
It's vanilla. I don't know what Kevin Stefanski has over the Cincinnati Bengals. Outside of that, he's 6 games under 500 for his career. There was one.
Hey, we got to see more. It's been one.
Well, I've seen enough of the coach. I've seen enough of that. I mean, I've got 3
It's been
seasons.
a different quarterback every year.
Yeah, but I've seen enough. I've seen enough.
To know what?
To
that
know-
we're blaming him for this?
to know that
How
our-
come last week nobody's...
Bull.
You didn't
Wait,
say anything
wait
about
a
it.
minute.
You asked me a question.
All right, let's just go to
Wait,
Mike
I might
first.
No,
say,
wait. I want to answer Bull's question. Bull's, I've seen enough
Yeah.
to know this. He's not the offensive coordinator for this team. He's just not. He can be the head coach.
That's pointless.
It
Go
is
ahead,
what
Mike.
it is.
We got to get a fast read here. We're going to go topic by topic through what happened last night, and we're going to spend some more time on Stefanski, the offense as a whole. I do want to say thank you to everyone who tuned into the post-game show last night. We didn't start till just before midnight. We went till 1 a.m. We've been here since 6 a.m. turning out graphics, but we had over 3,000 people watching at once. It was the most watched post-game show on the internet in the Cleveland market, so we appreciate you guys, and it feels weird kind of talking about anything right now, as Jay alluded to, after the Nick Chubb injury. I tweeted out yesterday after the game, or after the injury, that for about an hour and a half, I felt like I was just going through the motions of watching the football game, and nothing was actually real.
We got to get over this already. Let's stop whining about it.
You're not a Browns fan,
It
so be
sucks.
quiet here.
No.
Bull, I'm going to tell you why.
Because you
I'm
can't
gonna
sit
tell
in the
you
woe
why.
is me. I was sad too when it happened, Jay.
Bull.
Yeah.
You can't speak for Browns fans on this.
I'm
You
speaking
can't
for
say
me.
at 11,
What do you want to do? You're giving up on the season?
No, I even said
Well,
at the
you're
beginning
whining
of the
and
season's
crying
not
about
over.
the offense sucks and this sucks. Last week you're going Super Bowl, you're going buys.
Bull.
This week it's over.
Bull. If we don't do
You're
that,
too overreactionary.
Well, if we don't do that, why do we have a job? We're here to talk about what happened. And part of that is the emotion of what happened. And for you to say at 11-19, after one of the most devastating losses this team has had, to say, get over it already!
I'm not saying get over the loss.
Bull.
I'm saying, my point is, we can't. It sucks that Nick Chubb got hurt.
Yes, it
but
does.
If we wallow in the crying and the sadness, we can't.
Bull.
It just feels like
Well,
he's giving up on the season.
fans
Wait a
do.
minute. Wait a minute.
We're
I
fanatical.
know.
Wait a minute.
It was sad last night. I feel like we got to just.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
This is how you got to look at it. Okay, Bull. Everybody's different. So for you, it might be easy to be like, you know what? Let's just flip the page. For me, as an athlete,
I was over the Bengals lost by 11-19 the next day.
Turn the page.
I didn't care anymore.
But you can't.
You're
tell,
missing the point.
You can't tell people how to handle their
I'm talking to
feelings.
myself, but fine. Here's my point. To me, as a fan, it was the third most sad feeling I had about an injury in my life. Third, for a team I don't even root for, okay?
Who was first and second?
It was when Tim Crumry in the Super Bowl, this was long before
I'm
your
about to say,
time,
I don't even know who that
in
is.
the early 80s.
Bengals.
When his ankle was spinning around
Awful
like
injury.
this.
Awful.
And then Carson Palmer.
And it was like early in the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, killed him. He was
Just
their best player on defense.
Same thing. The Bengals were gutted after the injury.
And then Carson Palmer getting his knee blown out in the playoffs against the Steelers.
You know what I was
But
surprised by?
in the regular season, I'm telling you, Cubs, Bengals, this is the most upset I was about an injury last night. And I was upset all night. I felt the same way you guys did. And I don't care who doesn't believe me. I was bummed. I wasn't into the game. Blah, blah. And now I woke up this morning and I'm like, all right, I got to pep everybody up. Let's go. That's where I'm coming
Yeah,
from
but
here.
Bull, I'll tell you, there are certain times when
Well, you just want to wallow in the sadness.
it's
All right.
as a fan, it's so there. You know the
I get
stages
it.
of grief.
All right, I hear you.
And the therapy that you have to go through.
I hear you.
We will be fine. This fan base is as resilient a fan base as there is in the world. How do I know
it's just gonna
that?
take some
Because
time.
no fan base has been beat up more. But here's what I'll say about this whole thing. When it happened, the initial feeling was, oh my God, I don't know how we reach our season's goals. Then we were like, okay, that's macro. You'll address that down the road.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. Maybe they'll get Jonathan Taylor. I imagine they've already called Kareem Hunt. I imagine they are in the process right now of making it so we can put that behind us.
Yeah.
It's kind of early for me.
All right, fair. That's fair.
And I apologize for jumping on you, but in the
that's
moment,
all right.
I'm like, I'm not
hear
over
you.
it yet.
My attitude is I want to cheer everybody up on that.
And I get that, and I applaud you for
make
that.
you feel like it's not the season
And I
over.
applaud
But
you
I
for
get
that.
it. You're right. It's a devastating injury, and we all love Nick Chubb. And
I think
it
more
sucks. It
personally,
sucks. Yes.
more personally,
Yeah.
for Nick. Not that if it happened to someone else, it would be different.
No,
but
but
because this
everybody
guy,
loves him.
He is one of the most beloved athletes we've ever had.
Yeah.
He deserves to win something of value. He deserves to stand on a Super Bowl stage and have confetti fall on his head.
Yeah.
And
as
now
you said before,
the question is,
worst thought is
him
that's
going in-
his last touch as a Brown.
oh, that makes me.
If
That's
that
the worst.
happens, which is might very well, that's just the worst.
I don't know. I like Nick Chubb is one of those guys. They've told him he was done before,
Yeah.
and he found a way to come back from that. And
I know, but this one is different.
But
This age?
the thing about Nick Chubb is that he gonna at least try it. He gonna go. He gonna
only
attack.
guy we-
the
I know
thing.
he-
He
no
gonna
one will
try.
work harder to get
Yeah,
back.
he
The only
gonna
guy
try.
we've seen come back like right away, because remember, most guys that blow out their
Willis
knee,
McGahee.
it takes a couple of years.
Yeah.
But
Adrian
in most
Peterson.
guys, including McGahee, it takes a couple of years to
Peterson
come back.
came back in 8 months.
Peterson's the
Yeah.
only guy that came
Yeah.
back quick.
I
Now
can't-
he's that caliber of player and an
You
athlete.
know what? It's positive that you said that because Nick Chubb and Adrian Peterson are similar
Yeah.
in their
Absolutely.
natural physiques and their
greatness.
ridiculous strength, their greatness.
Yeah.
On the Kevin Stefanski thing, like you said, sample size. I don't know who shared this. I had seen it before, and I meant to bookmark it. When I went back to look for it, I couldn't find it. But Mike sent it to the group this morning, and I'll read it. The Browns are 1-23 under Kevin Stefanski in games they trailed by 4+ points in the fourth quarter. That's since he's become the head coach. Since his first season in 2020, that's the second worst winning percentage, which is
.42.
.42. .04. 4% winning. He's only won 4% of the games in which he's trailed by 4 points or more in the fourth quarter. The only team that's worse over that stretch is the Panthers, who have never done it. They haven't come back in that stretch. They're 0-13.
And oddly, Baker is
So,
part
Bull,
of both of those.
when I say, I know, when I say, Bull,
Yeah.
like you said, well, it's kind of a small sample size. There's one common thread through all the quarterbacks. It's the guy who's called all the plays during that stretch.
Well, but let me say
It's
this.
very true.
If you want to, listen, I'm Kevin Stefanski.
And I'm not advocating firing Kevin
Stefanski
Stefanski.
can't be immune to criticism.
No.
That's fair. However, the fact that a week ago everybody was loving Kevin Stefanski, and now 1 week later we're like, he can't be the offensive coordinator, I think that's too much of an overreaction.
That's why.
Those stats were there before this game, too.
I had mentioned last week, and I asked it to the panel, because I don't have an answer for it. And people I talk to don't have an answer for it. How do you explain that against one of the yardstick teams in the conference, not the division, in the conference, he's what, 6-1? What is his record against Cincinnati? I think it's 6-1.
He's much better against Cincinnati.
And then against the rest of the league, against everybody else, it's like 7 games under 500.
It's a favorable matchup. I tell you what.
No, I don't know that that's it. But maybe it is, but.
Well, the one interesting thing about the Browns and the Kevin Stefanski thing is this, is that as a defense, okay, you switched your defensive coordinator in the offseason, and that defense went from one of the worst defenses to looking like one of the best.
Could you do that with the switch at offensive coordinator?
Yes, but my thing is, how is it that Jim Schwartz have that much of an impact that he could take a group of guys and flip them?
Well, they did add a lot of guys.
They did. They added a lot of D-line, yeah.
If he was doing it with the same crew,
but
I would say the guys who
did the offense not add some pieces? They got a whole new receiving core.
Here's the problem with the offense, because this hasn't changed. So the constant
that
in your
left
experiment
tackle
is that's one of them. But the constant in your experiment is it's the same guy drawing up and calling the plays.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
I still don't believe that the drawing of the plays is the biggest problem. It's the execution that has been the issue.
But haven't you seen a lack of creativity? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to me, when I look at the offense, I'm like,
the first game, I thought he was very creative. I just thought the weather was bad and he missed some throws. But I thought as far as drawing people and scheming people open, they was open.
Jay, you guys all complained about the 4th-and-1 option play, which I
was terrible.
I hated
that.
Was
terrible.
What I hated
what's
worse
he
than
not
that.
doing creatively?
So what I hated more than that was
the
it's
3
3rd
passes.
and 1.
Yeah.
And you need a yard. And Chubb was still in the game at that point. Like, why
he had come out for 2nd and 3rd down.
I know he did.
I think he was a little gassed,
again, maybe. But what I don't understand is why we always try to outthink everybody. On 3rd and 4th and 1 with Nick Chubb, and I do know that he did come out of the game.
Yeah.
I just don't get why you're trying to dazzle and razzle and fool the room.
They got the first down, and Watson fumbled.
They did get the first down, and Watson fumbled.
Yeah.
But by the way, he barely got the first down. What I'm saying is, if I have those pieces, and I know what the situation is, it's 3rd and 1, I don't need to think. I don't need to do this.
Well, it's something.
I don't need any of that. I'm like, I got Nick Chubb.
60 seconds,
give him the ball.
You've said he's not creative enough, and then he's trying to be too smart. Well, what is it?
No,
those are counterintuitive.
Bull, on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, creativity doesn't come into play.
So
run it up their throat.
Well, that's it. Do you have the confidence in your players? I mean, that's what you got to think about it like this. If I got
24, I trust.
If I got some dogs, okay, if I got some dogs on the offensive line and my running back is a dog and I trust him, I don't care if the whole team know what we're doing. They probably do know. You should still get that third one up.
If he runs Nick Chubb 95 times on 3rd and 1, but doesn't do it 5 times, what? You think Derrick Henry on 3rd and 1 gets the ball every time?
Well,
No.
I also gave another example when they took over on the 19-yard line.
Yeah.
And at that point, Nick had 4 carries for over 20 yards, so he's averaging 5.
Yeah.
He didn't touch the ball. They threw it.
That's
missed
one
a field
series.
goal.
So what?
No, now the other series is the 3rd 1 and 4th and 1. There's a lot of examples. There's examples.
But they got the first down on the 4th and 1. I don't know what to tell you.
Technically, Bull.
They got it. He fumbled.
Technically,
how's that Stefanski's fault?
It's not even that the play works or doesn't. That's in that case, we have the benefit of the results to make our argument.
Right.
In the moment, I'm saying, don't get cute here.
Question.
You know what to do.
You also said you're not creative. So you don't want to be cute or creative.
Not on 3rd and 1. On 3rd and 1, I don't want cute.
Wait a minute.
Just run up the middle on 3rd and 1 every time?
Wait a minute.
With Nick Chubb, yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you said that he got the first down on the 4th and 1.
Yeah.
Question. Why not just run a quarterback sneak?
I know.
All the whining last year from some people on this panel about Jacoby Brissett coming in the fourth and one. Maybe Deshaun Watson can't run the quarterback sneak. I don't know what the hell he's doing.
I mean,
I find that maybe Deshaun Watson switched to that play. He has a lot of flexibility in the huddle there.
Well, that's a
so every time people call about you are kidding. Every time people talk about listen, anybody criticizing the play calling to me is completely lost. You don't know what the play was called.
I agree with that.
Well, now wait a minute.
I don't know what the play is called.
No, but we don't know what the play call was, but we can watch if he checks out of a play. He didn't check out of that play.
I don't remember.
Well, you tend to remember when a quarterback checks out because you hear the call and everybody's like, "Oh wow, he just changed the play." I don't remember that happening on that play.
Can't you have a silent change of play?
No, everybody's got to hear it.
No,
everybody's got to hear it. Now, sometimes when two plays are called in the huddle,
they can one.
Yeah, that's it. And you can do that with a gesture, a hand motion.
That's what I'm saying.
But I didn't see anything. I typically remember when
you were looking that closely at it.
Well, no, I can honestly say I don't remember him not checking
even
out.
Still, you're talking
I tend to remember when guys check out a play.
Even if you're right about that play, that's one play. Like people complain about every time the Browns lose, and this probably happens with every other fan base too. I'm just not paying attention to any other fan bases right now. But every time the Browns lose, there's this song and dance about the play calling. Every time they win and nobody mentions it.
We got to see. I got to see.
Complaining about their play calling too, and you know why they're not complaining as much this morning? They got the win.
No, they're still complaining.
They should. By the way, what an indictment that offense was part of the winning team last night. They were absolutely awful.
My main point, Jay, though, is we blame the coaches too much. If the players play. We've spent all this time talking about Kevin Stefanski. Deshaun Watson is by far the main reason they lost that game.
1,000%. He's not off the hook here either.
Yeah.
I just happened to make a comment about the coach.
I got to see it from the all-22.
I haven't begun yet on the quarterback.
We got to watch it from the all-22 angle because I need to see if these receivers was open or not. Right? Like, I get that.
Yeah, no, sometimes you can't. You
can't see it from a TV camera. You got to see it from the
Amazon game on Thursday, by the way?
Yeah.
I meant to bring this up Friday, and I don't think I did. Did you watch the channel? They have a dedicated channel now to the All-22.
I did not see that.
Really?
And please check it out Thursday night.
Watch that.
So not only that, they have all of the stats buried into all the players that are wearing trackable equipment.
Oh, you can see their miles per hour.
It shows everything. It's giving you real-time analytics.
I like that.
Telemetry, basically. It's a really interesting watch. Now, I will say, it's hard to watch the whole game
that way. Do they have
announcers
or no?
It's the same audio feed so you still hear Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. So when you hit Amazon and you go to their load page, there's three options. One is the live regular broadcast that we're used to. Mm-hmm. The middle one is Spanish broadcast, and the one on the far right is their analytics broadcast. It's all 22, and I can't wait to watch a Browns game that way because you're right. What I learned from watching a full game like that live, you can see so much better who's open and what the decision needs to be.
That's how that looks. Like the all-22 is exactly how when you're a player and you're watching tape, that's the copy that you get.
Yeah.
Is that exact copy.
And it opens
so you can
up
see
everything.
You can see everybody see exactly what everybody was doing.
Now,
and I need to see from the receivers.
Maybe they weren't open.
I don't know.
What is with Elijah Moore not being able to get his feet
I don't know. I don't know.
That's a skill, right? I mean, that's a skill on the sideline is to be able to drag your feet, and he's got to be better at that. But it felt like almost every throw that Watson made to the sidelines was bad throw.
He did have a couple of key third down conversions when they were really, really deep, when they were in jail. So there were a couple possessions that they started inside the 10 that went to a third and long, and twice he made dart throws to the right receiver that really wasn't even open. I think one of them was Amari Cooper. He went up on the sideline and came down with a great catch. Yeah. Another one was the out-of-bounds play on Moore. I thought it was a completion. He didn't get both feet in. Yeah. And that's what's frustrating for me with Watson. I saw him make throws yesterday that I was absolutely saying that there's Deshaun Houston.
Well, consistency is always that's the thing in this league.
The game is happening too fast.
Here's the problem
for him right now.
Every quarterback, no matter how bad, can make a few good throws, right? Kenny Pickett made 2 or 3 nice throws.
He did.
That throw for the touchdown, that long touchdown, was a nice throw.
It's your consistency.
Zach Wilson, as bad at any quarterback as we've seen, made 2 or 3 really nice throws. The
Yeah.
good quarterbacks, like almost all their throws are good throws, even if they're not completed. Go ahead on Deshaun Watson because you really haven't talked about him yet.
I think Mike.
Mike,
you have
go
a
ahead,
read?
Mike.
He's
Well, if we're going to get
waving
into
back
Deshaun
there.
Watson, let me set it up with a fast read first. And
Okay.
if you guys need some athletic or leisure wear this fall, check out Bird Dogs. It is the place to be for all your sweatpants, joggers, shorts, whatever you need. Check them out at birddogs.com. We can get into the Watson talk. We'll get back to Nick Chubb in a little bit. We'll get back to the defense. We'll talk about everything else that happened last night. But Deshaun Watson is something we have to touch on. We spoke on the pregame last night, myself, Earl, and G, that there's really no way to sugarcoat it. Deshaun Watson wasn't very good last night, and these are the moments that you would hope a quarterback who is of the stature of Deshaun Watson would come through in. Last night he didn't, and it's starting.
It's
to
not
become
just
a little
last
bit of
night,
concern.
Mike. And let me correct something that I've heard a lot of people say in the last 24 hours. Deshaun Watson's just been average. He's just been average. Is not good enough. No,
Yeah, he ain't
Deshaun
been
Watson
average.
hasn't even been
He
average.
ain't average.
Well, I'll give you one metric that it's. I don't really love this. It's like the win-loss record for pitchers. You're like, it tells you something. It doesn't tell you everything. But on the QBR, going back to his first start last week,
16.5?
we now have 9 games in the tank for him. Or, I'm sorry, 8 games.
Yeah.
We have half a season essentially.
Yeah.
If you go back to that mark and you look at all the quarterbacks that have played in that time, his QBR is 26th in the league.
Wait a
At
minute.
what, 30?
His QBR last night
They're more than
was
30 because there are a lot of
was
quarterbacks that played maybe 3 games but didn't
16.5.
play
Okay.
all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful. He's been awful.
That's just this season. That's just this season.
No, that's just,
what I did is I
I'm
averaged
talking about
his
that
QBR.
game right there. 16.5.
Well, guys, here's now the pick 6 to start the game, and tell me that
that's not his fault.
No,
come on.
That's not his
It's
fault.
not a good throw, Ty.
That's not his fault.
Ty, that was not a good throw. We got to call that play up on tag board.
Jay, you know the rules.
I
of
know
a
the receiver should have
Don't
caught
do
the
that.
ball.
Don't
However,
do that. That's not his fault.
Well, we're going to show it.
That's not his fault.
Look where he threw it.
That's not his
Terrible
fault.
throw.
It's not a good pass.
It's not a great
the
pass,
ball
but he
traveled
still got
11
it.
yards.
He had 2 hands on that ball. You got to catch it.
Was it a
That's
good
the rule.
throw?
Not a great throw at all.
No, it wasn't.
It's not a great throw at all.
It's on both of them, but here's the facts. The ball went indirectly from Deshaun Watson's hands to the Steelers' end zone
He should
twice.
have put that ball right on his outside number.
Should have.
Bad
That's
throw.
where it was
That was
supposed to
a
be,
bad
right
throw.
on his outside. As soon as he turned, it should have been right on his outside
Put that
number.
stat up again that you just had before
is
that.
David Njoku still on the team?
Man, you see how
Yeah, we saw him fumble. That's what we saw him do.
he do a
Look at this. Quarterback off-target rate through 2 games.
That's
He's
terrible.
the worst in the league right now.
And it's not even close. There's 4 percentage points between he and Love. And I got to tell you guys.
And by the way, let's before we even talk about that, think about the 4 guys ahead of him. Rookie, second year,
First-year starter.
and
Love.
first-year starter in Love,
Yeah.
who's barely played.
So collectively, those
can-
guys have started less than 1 full season in the NFL.
Yes, that's correct. Or about a full season because Pickett played like 8-9 games. Whatever.
Right, but then you throw in Love.
Yeah.
He started 2, and the
Yeah.
rookies have started 2.
Right. It's
So
about a
that's
season
14
worth of games. Just under a season worth of games.
And Deshaun Watson is at the bottom of the pile. Here's really the question that I have, because this ultimately is the only thing that matters. He's the Browns quarterback. That's it. There's no
That's it.
quarterback
Yeah.
controversy.
No.
I had people texting me this morning, do we see DTR? Stop it.
No.
Stop it. Now, you know what?
Nah, that's
Ironically
funny.
enough,
Yeah.
That's funny.
when I replied to one of my buddies, no, it's not even close to that. He said, well, did you read Florio? And I didn't. But he responded that Florio wrote a column that Deshaun could be looking at a 1-game suspension for pushing the official.
right.
So Browns fans might get their wish, those that want DTR.
I heard someone tweeted to me and said, we finally got one right in the draft with DTR and we have to play Watson.
Oh my God.
Listen, y'all. This is absurd.
People are out of pocket.
It's a-
Someone else had made a good point, said
absurd.
maybe this is Brady 2.0. Because remember, when Brady came in for the Patriots, he was coming in for Drew Bledsoe.
You know who's
Drew
Brady?
Bledsoe, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory is right,
Yeah.
Bledsoe had just signed the first $100 million contract.
Yeah.
So he was what Deshaun Watson
There-
is now.
listen.
It was unthinkable that you would bring a rookie
Yeah.
in to replace Drew Bledsoe. They won the Super Bowl that year, and Drew Bledsoe never got his job back.
Well,
It's only
now, I'm not saying that's
Who's
going to
the best
happen
Brady?
here.
Brock Purdy?
Brock Purdy is the closest to
Brock
Tom
Purdy's playing
Brady's
great
story
football.
as far as the storyline goes
Yeah.
that we have in
But-
the NFL.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Getting
so-
back to reality, the Browns are stuck. They're stuck.
They are
If
stuck.
He does not turn it. This is why, like last night, I was overreacting. I always blame people for being overreactionary. I'm going to call myself out for being overreactionary. I immediately tweeted, "Let's call the Colts for Jonathan Taylor."
You did
And
say
then,
that.
Well, listen, even this morning, I'm okay with doing that.
but when I thought about
So
it,
are you okay? I mean, if
Jay,
you
here's
trade,
what I thought
what
about
are you
this morning.
giving up? What do we have to
Listen,
give up is the question.
I used to try to be fiscally responsible, and
Yeah.
I would say, guys, you're writing all these checks. You're gonna have to pay the piper.
they're not
and
going
G
to.
And Bull talked me into. Well, there's always ways out of it. Now
That's
I know
right.
eventually you're going to pay the piper,
Yes.
and eventually this team is. But here's the deal: you're playing poker, and you're 85% in.
No, they got
That's not all in.
No, they all in.
No, they're not because they don't have a game-changing running back.
here's
right
why I changed my mind.
They
this
ain't got
morning.
a game-changing left tackle right now.
Here's why I changed my mind.
now. And
this
they don't
morning.
fall out of trees.
I changed my mind this morning because the bottom line is, if Deshaun Watson keeps playing like this, it's irrelevant who their running back is.
I should show you my text chain with my
Yeah.
buddy. I
Yeah.
said exactly the same thing.
irrelevant.
As much as I want, and you know what? After watching Deshaun Watson the whole game last night, particularly in the fourth quarter, watching
Yeah.
him just melt down and look like a deer in headlights, I changed my mind from thinking we got to get Jonathan Taylor
Right.
to, well, if that's number 4 now, and that's who he is, guys, I'm sorry, I don't remember the number 4 in Houston. That guy doesn't exist to me now. It's too far
And still
removed.
proven otherwise.
It's too far removed, and now I have a half season to judge him on.
Yeah.
And based on that, this team's going nowhere with number 4.
No matter how good the defense
No
is,
matter
the
if
defense
Jonathan
is good.
Taylor comes down.
No.
No matter if Orlando Pace could magically be recreated as a 23-year-old and come in at left tackle. You're not winning with him at quarterback.
I don't know, because we say all that. He's under duress, like in the pocket.
But here's the thing.
Don't
You think-
don't act like he's just standing
But
back
Tyvus,
there.
see,
and,
here's
You know
and
why?
making
Because we're
terrible
now
throws.
one-dimensional.
Like the
here's
tackle,
my problem
they
with
not
that.
the line ain't doing him no favors.
Tyvus,
Like we
here's my-
gotta be a little bit fair about this. Like
right, okay, but
he
let's be
is
fair.
on the move, avoiding sacks, and still trying
But
to get
Tyvus,
the ball.
here's my
out. That's a
problem.
lie. That's a lie.
Tyvus, you know this better than anybody. Good quarterbacks make up for bad offensive lines.
They do.
Patty Mahomes
Especially
did it.
one that can
Joe
run.
Burrow did. it.
Mahomes has done it. Burrow's done it his whole career.
Bull.
Watson did it in Houston. They had the work. He got sacked a million times. He still put up huge numbers in Houston.
That's what I was gonna
That's
say.
not an excuse.
That's what I was going to say. In Houston, that 2020 year, he led the league in sacks taken.
Who?
While throwing Deshaun Watson.
I think he led the league in sacks his entire time in Houston.
You know, I wonder. I
got
don't know
sacked
if
a
we can
million
figure that
times
out.
there.
On the number of completions, or excuse me, attempts in the 2020 season, where did Deshaun Watson rank?
Give me a sec.
Okay. Because I went to look that up yesterday because we had a conversation yesterday about his numbers, and sometimes numbers can be fool's gold, especially when you're leading a 4-12 team. A lot of times those
Yeah,
games
but
are
it's not like
blowouts
he
in the
didn't put
fourth
up
quarter.
huge numbers the 2 years before that.
Not as big as 2020 though. 2020 was his year.
He was 10th in attempts.
Okay. That's telling to me that he was in the upper half.
Was Bill O'Brien?
Yeah, but you
his
probably thought it
coach
was
at
higher
that
than
Bill
time?
O'Brien was the coach then, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah.
I wonder how many. Was he down? Was he throwing down the field, or was these like screens and like over and drag?
Well,
because that makes a difference.
He led
too.
the league in yards per completion.
Oh, okay.
see what I've maintained, and I have no evidence because I didn't go back and look at any of those box scores, any of those play-by-play sheets. I just know that typically when a team is 4-12, they're not very good, and they're typically losing those games. And what do you do when you're losing in the fourth quarter?
Throwing the ball.
And what does the defense do when they've got a big enough lead in the fourth quarter? What are they doing?
Just staying on top of everything.
A lot, nothing behind us.
Right.
So a lot of that.
That's why-
I don't
that's
wanna
why I was
say
asking,
He
like,
earned
it's-
those yards.
Yeah.
But in terms of, and you hear it all the time. Oh, my guy got a lot of cheap stats in the fourth
Yeah.
quarter.
You can't just pick one guy
No,
out for that.
I can't.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, Bull, and I think you're going to agree with me. God, I hope you do.
I got your
To
stats
me,
here,
this
Jay.
is a no-brainer. Those numbers are, on their own
Yeah.
are very impressive. Very impressive. The number of touchdowns, the number of yards, his completion percentage was incredible. Obviously, we know in the fourth quarter, teams are giving you the underneath stuff. You better complete those passes. But take those same numbers and attribute them to a team that's 12-4. Now you're saying he's the reason they're 12-4. And the numbers do look different for a 12-4.
But the 12-4 team probably also has better talent around them than that Houston team did. And I
should.
I agree with you to some degree without looking at every game individually. Right. But while his numbers the 2 full years before that, when they went to the playoffs, weren't quite as good as that year,
they were good.
They were close.
They were good.
Yeah.
He was Clemson Deshaun when he was in Houston.
Yes.
Let me ask you.
But we have not seen that guy here
This
once.
Deshaun
not once.
has been a new
And
being.
I spoke to somebody that played the game who I trust and know well.
Right.
Who's a Browns fan.
Okay.
And he said to me, this morning, I am petrified that he's Tiger Woods. That Tiger Woods
front runner?
That Tiger Woods' personal life got ruined.
Oh.
And he was never the same.
That's interesting.
And he was never the same. And I'm worried
Tiger
about
did
it.
have some significant injuries, too.
He did.
He did.
Certainly.
Which made it even more complicated.
But Watson has had injuries in his career,
And Bull,
that he's
I haven't
essentially
thought that.
worried that he's
mentally done.
He's mentally. He will never get his confidence back completely to where it was.
Yeah,
and I hope he's wrong.
The fact that those dollars are guaranteed, too, gives him the biggest safety net in the world.
Now, I don't think anybody wants to lose.
No, he's prideful.
He needs
humiliated.
He's not sucking on purpose.
He needs one big 300-yard game. If he gets that, he needs to see what that feels like.
I need more than
again.
one because
I'm saying the one would be like, all right, I still am good. I still can do this.
And maybe he'll get his swagger back. You know what's funny? When I watch,
he ain't got no choice. They got no choice but to do that now.
You know what?
So
all eyes on 4. That's the mantra for the rest of the season.
He's got to carry the team.
All the eyes
or the offense.
We know the defense is out of this world, and they are. Are they the best defense in the NFL? No. They are a top-ranked defense. They've got the pieces.
I think
they get after it.
At worst, they're going to be a top 10 defense.
I agree with that. My hope for them is, and my expectation is they're going to be a top 5. But this is it.
But at worst, I
this
think
one,
the next 15 games of the season. All eyes on 4.
That's it. This right here with Humio. Remember, like it was about 2 or 3 months, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. We sat here and the question was, should the Browns get D-Hop? And people was like, no, our receiving core is good enough.
You had him now, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my God!
I wasn't one of those people.
It's not like D-Hop having a great season with Tennessee.
You changed my mind on something. You said I don't want any wide receiver over 30. And you made a strong case because I've always been open to that. But then you started saying, go look at all the greats. Now, there are exceptions, of course. 31 was your line.
Yeah.
Well, he's over 31.
I thought he was still 30 this year, no?
I don't think so.
In general, I don't like older receivers.
I know.
But when we had the opportunity,
there are exceptions to the rule. There always are. And I don't know that D-Hop could have saved what we're looking at.
I mean.
To your point, before we get to the fact that Deshaun Watson is broken, the offensive line, and Jason has been saying this after the first game when we were like, hey, Jones was okay. Now, he got eviscerated last night. Holding penalties, false starts, flat getting smoked by one of the greatest players in the game today. But Jason said, guys, tackle's going to be a big problem. Even though he was saying that the left tackle's average.
Yeah.
He's not. You're right. He's below average. But I heard someone say on it was either ESPN or NFL Network this morning, maybe they should think about switching the two and putting Wills back to his natural right tackle.
You can't do that.
And try.
You cannot.
Wasn't DeWan the left tackle?
No, he was
He was a right tackle.
No.
You don't have a true left tackle on this team. And boy, doesn't it show.
No,
Yeah, I mean, it's a
I got
problem.
your numbers, by the way.
What number?
You asked about Deshaun Watson splits from the 2020 season?
Yes.
Well, guess what? This stat is brought to you by the YouTube chat today. And if you're in the YouTube chat, one of the many people out there watching, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us go a long way on the YouTube algorithm. So according to Pro Football Reference, here are Deshaun Watson splits from that 2020 season. One of these stands out, and it's not what I expected. When the Texans were leading in 2020, Deshaun Watson threw for 963 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. In a tie game,
You got to give us context for that, Mike. We don't know if that's true or not.
They weren't leading much.
I have 3 tiers here. Give me a second.
Okay.
Get into it. You can't just judge a book by the first page, Bull. You got to let me get into it.
Read the book.
When they were tied, He did not throw a single touchdown. Only threw one interception. They were barely tied. Only threw 70 passes in tied situations.
Really?
Wait, is this in Houston you talking about?
This is in 2020, that whole season. When
How
they were
is that?
trailing,
That's almost
which once again, they were trailing a lot. They went 4-12.
right.
He attempted 367 passes, threw for 3,445 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions.
Which is what you'd expect.
So they were down. So
They were down most of the. I mean,
Right, but again,
So
there's a
when,
big difference between down 3, down 7,
Sure.
and down 17,
yeah,
down 24.
absolutely. How many games that season did they lose by more than one score?
well, here's what we're getting to next.
Yeah.
This is the final outcome of the game. So unless I go through play-by-play, you can't get into every
No, I know,
play.
and that's the only way we're going to find out if this is.
Right.
If there's
But
anything
But this
to
is
this
the
at all.
closest we can get to with
Okay.
a quick search. So in games that ended in one-score games, so between 1 and 7 points,
Right.
Deshaun Watson threw for 2,790 yards, 19 touchdowns.
Okay.
How many games was that, though?
Yeah. How many?
9 games,
Okay.
one-score game.
That's half a season.
75% of their losses.
Now that could be garbage time scores late that make it a one-score
You're
game.
right.
You don't know.
We
You
don't
know
know.
really. So this is
Right,
once
yeah,
again,
It's going to take a deep
is not
dive into the
perfect.
play-by-play
Right.
sheets to
This is
figure
not
out.
Because
perfect, but it gives
he
you
might
a
have
little
thrown
context.
80 yards and a touchdown on the last drive that made a 14-point game a 7-point
Exactly.
game. That was
So once
meaningless.
again,
Exactly.
not perfect,
Yeah.
but when you look at it, this gives you a little bit of context what we're talking
Yeah.
about. In 8 to 14-point games, there's only 2 of them, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. In games that ended by more than 14 points, so 15 or higher, he threw for 1,780 yards,
Oh.
12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So in games where it wasn't close
How
at
many
all,
did they lose by more than 15?
5 games.
Wow.
Yeah, that's bad.
Okay, now that is gleaning. I can take something out of that.
So-
Because in those situations, you
You
know
got-
that a team will go into a prevent if it's a 2-score game.
Yeah.
If it's a 2-touchdown game,
Stay on top. Don't
take your pick.
Yeah.
To
What do
really
you
get
want?
the full, we'd have to do a massive deep
I
dive.
know.
into
I
it.
still
I'd have
think
to do
we
a
need,
deep dive like
we
I
need
did with
more
Myles
context,
Garrett.
but there is something to that number. In the 5 losses by more than 15 points, he threw for 2/3 of his yards.
No,
Right,
no.
but-
The majority of his yards came in the 9 games that were one-score games.
What was the
But that's
number?
more games, though. Of
Yeah,
course
there's
it's gonna
9
be
of
more
them.
yards.
better.
There is a. I can see if there's a per yard or per game.
We'd have to look at the play-by-play.
Okay, so in the one-score games, he threw average 310 yards. In the 15 or more, he threw for 297. So
Yeah.
So actually threw more yards per game in the close games.
yes,
Okay.
That tells me something too. It's
Yeah.
surprising that that's
And
the
again,
case.
even the blowout games, like maybe they were close at halftime, and he did nothing at halftime.
Right.
And then once it was a blowout, he played great, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know.
You'd almost have to been a fan or a reporter and watch
Right.
every single play that season to tell you of that
The
big
context,
number. Yeah,
the deeper
like,
context.
Was that because there are 2 different kinds of 4,800 yards?
Yeah. I think in the end, it's fair to say he was an excellent quarterback overall in Houston.
Played-
and he's been an awful quarterback overall so far in Cleveland.
Yeah, that's not indisputable.
As every week goes by, it's going to get harder to believe he's going to turn it around. But
Can he, Ty?
I'm not there yet.
Can he? You've
Your
been in
confidence
pro
doesn't
sports
seem very
locker
high.
rooms.
No. Can he turn it around? This is the thing.
This isn't a bad game.
This is the thing.
This is a bad half season.
It's been 2 games.
No. It's been 8. I'm judging him. Look,
this season.
like Bull always says, if you're on the field, there are no excuses.
This season. No, because
Does he look different this season than last?
No.
He looks exactly the same to me.
This what I
I would have ignored last season if he had played well.
See,
this
and I
year.
was never willing to ignore
No, but
last
if he had
season.
played, if he had been great this year,
Yes.
you would have forgotten about it.
I would absolutely
You
have
would have thrown it
forgotten
away.
about it.
But-
And you know
but
what?
if
He can make me forget about it.
That's right. It's
but
not
he's
too
got to
late.
be as good
The
as he
biggest-
has been bad.
That's right.
The biggest problem with Deshaun Watson is consistency because over his 8 games as a Brown, whether it's been good, bad, or indifference, it still has been something in those games where you was like, it's still there. It's
like
still
Bill
there.
Said, though,
I got
you saw that with Baker Mayfield.
Right. And what's the problem? Consistency. What are the
Right.
what are the best quarterbacks are? They're consistent. They're going to consistently be good.
It's like golf.
He has
Just
to
because you
find
bird in
out
one hole
how
doesn't mean you're ready
they
for the
need to
tour.
find him. He needs to find a way to be consistent because he got the confidence of his teammates. He got the confidence of his coaches. I've seen him in practice. It looks unbelievable in practice. Some I
Come
read.
on, you know that doesn't.
I know.
Talking about practice.
I know. But what I'm saying is I've seen him deliver this football. So I know he has the ability to deliver this football.
So is it mental? Do you think
Why
it's mental?
isn't he doing it in the game? That's the problem.
Is it mental?
It could be
Bull's
mental.
question.
It could be mental.
Listen, Bull's point or your source's point that he's petrified that he's Tiger Woods. I never really thought that before.
It's a real thing.
But I'm thinking it now. Maybe he will never get over
That
this.
the off the field has destroyed his
Do
confidence.
you remember what they made Tiger Woods do? I was working at ESPN, and his news conference was going to be in the window of the Sports Center that I was hosting.
Yeah.
It was actually First Take. And they said to us, you're going to take the whole news conference. And I said, why? Sports Center's going to run it. I mean, what? The whole idea here of ESPN and ESPN2 is you can put on multiple shows at the same time.
Right.
It's news and information, and that's Sports Center. First Take is opinion. Well, yeah, but you guys certainly are going to discuss afterwards what we've seen, so we're going to put it on. And I just remember I don't ever think I felt more gross as a member of the media than I did that day. Because here's what they made that man do. Over something that was private and personal. And his sponsors were largely behind it, and his agent. They waltzed that man out in front of hundreds of media members. And the networks carried it live, and ESPN carried it live, and ESPN2 carried it live. And they made that man grovel about his worst personal decision of his life. And I remember in the moment thinking, can you imagine having to do that? Now, I know he's Tiger Woods, and there are expectations.
And he didn't have to, right? He could have said no.
He initially said, absolutely not. But the cry from the mob that is the media got so loud that his sponsors said, you got to do this, Tiger.
Right.
And then you know what his sponsors did after he did it?
They dumped him.
Dropped him.
Yeah, right.
Instantly. Nike, all of them were done. So imagine after making the worst personal decision of your life that literally was the tadpole that made your ball of life come unraveled, you have to stand in front of hundreds of cameras and repent and say, I made an awful decision.
Yeah.
I cheated on my wife. There was a physical altercation. I wrecked my car. I was using prescription drugs at the time and wasn't of the sound mind. And he answered questions. And I remember in the moment thinking, this is the grossest thing I've ever watched. Why is it that we have to have that satisfaction as consumers, that we have to see this man fall on his sword in public? And he was never the same guy, ever. If you look at his stats, pre that day and post that day, you're talking about two different people.
Right.
And what Deshaun Watson was put through wasn't Tiger Woods, but it wasn't far off.
No, and now again, you were right. Tiger had some injuries. And also Tiger was older and further along in his career than Watson.
But he was still like 30.
And
for a golfer, he's a young man.
But the mental, you never know. You talk about physical and what we see on the field, you never know what's in the guy's head.
Ty, would you agree with this? Because I have a lot of pro athletes tell me the most important muscle in the body when you're playing professional sports is the brain.
That's a fact.
I've always been told, as definitively as you answered that question, everybody that I've ever talked to that has played pro sports has told me this. Man, I've played with guys that were Hall of Fame talent, but had a nickel upstairs.
I swear that's the truth.
And it washed them right out of the game because that is what makes the difference.
You got to be, listen.
And Tiger lost that,
you gotta be
and has Deshaun lost that? Give me an example of something
I hope not. I hope not. I'll give you an example of myself. I was, this confident guy that I am today, I never was always that guy. You know that? I was never that guy.
If I may psychoanalyze you for a second, because I'm very similar.
Yeah.
I'm not to the point that you are, but I believe in myself way more than anybody should believe in themselves. But I also will say this, and I'll admit this. There's a part of me, not so much now, but particularly when I was younger, in both athletics and in this career, there was a piece of me that was insecure.
Yeah.
And the way I hid that was being you.
No, honestly, I never did that. I just was never, I was not as confident in myself as I am today. Like I was always
Did you ever have an insecurity?
Yeah.
In your ability?
Yeah.
Okay, did you try to convince yourself that you were not an imposter, that you belonged, by saying it out loud in front of other people?
No.
Because I did.
No, I didn't do that.
I did.
I didn't say. I just told myself like you're here for a reason. Like, and then I would have over the course of my play, always be other people that be like, man, that's really good. Like you are good. So then I start thinking, man, maybe I am pretty good. Because a lot of the times
you started buying your own hype.
Yeah, I'd be like, man, maybe I am. So then it took it took towards the end of my career where I was like, you know what? I am like that. Like, I am that good. And it just bled into who I am today.
Did you ever see or play with someone who had a personal event in their life that mentally they just couldn't overcome that? That hurdle was too much to cross?
A lot of them that I seen bounce back. A lot of them bounce back. I can't really recall somebody who didn't bounce back and the thing with the Deshaun Watson thing is that he had one of the biggest things going in the world. I mean, it was everywhere and he could never avoid it. I mean, his family went through it for him because of him.
It was close to Tiger Woods. It really was.
But as a person and as a competitor and as a guy, you got to find a way to try to get over it. Because for the rest of your life, if you don't do nothing in football ever again, if you continue to that's what they're going to say about you.
Right. Yeah. If he doesn't turn his career back on track,
like Ben Roethlisberger at least won Super Bowls and people, it's stuff that people like. All right, it kind of got washed away a little bit. His last game, they was talking about him like he was the greatest man in the world.
He never did anything wrong.
Exactly. So
he can make people forget.
That's what I'm saying.
The only way to do it now is with his play.
And on top of that, the best part about it is you got a team that believes in you, that gives you all the support in the world.
Do they still? Do you think?
Yeah, they do. They have no choice. You got teammates that sit there and cheer you on and believe you. Every time I hear this whole preseason, every time I got sound for the Browns radio network, it'd be Four is like that. Oh, wait till y'all see Four. Four really a dog.
Where is he? Well, I'd like to see him.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's like you got all these people that you've already shown it, that you still got it. You got all these people that believe in you. You got a coaching staff that's riding on you. Like my job depends on you. This whole organization, this whole roster, this whole coaching staff is dependent on you. And you got to find a way to make it work. Or if you don't, it's over.
Hold on, guys.
It's over.
Go ahead,
and let's hope he can handle that pressure. But I know Mike's got to get something in here.
Yeah, we got a couple more reads. We can see all the super chats you guys have sent. We will get to those at the end of the show. We have at least 10 to 15. We will do that the last 15 minutes of the show. We'll get all your super chats in. Tomorrow night, where there'll be another edition of Behind the Glass, myself, Earl, Anthony, talking about the Browns. And we'll look ahead. We'll try to ignore what happened last night. We'll look ahead to the Titans game, which we'll also focus and cover here the rest of the week on Behind the Glass. The Titans coming down on this Sunday for Week 3. Tyvis, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you. This is the number one thing that we're seeing in the chat right now. It was the number one topic of conversation on the internet last night after the Nick Chubb injury. But you played safety in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know this better than anyone else, considering you actually did that and did what happened last night on the highest level, or played that position. You didn't ever cause a career potentially debilitating injury.
No.
Do you think it was a dirty hit? Like plain foremost simple?
No,
was it dirty?
No, it was not a dirty hit, and I know people are upset by that, and I get that it's Nick Chubb, and everybody's like, like he went low on Nick Chubb and blah, 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 blah. But when I went back, and I talked to Bull about this morning, and I looked at it again. Like, I really sat there in detail, and I looked at it. When first of all, Minkah Fitzpatrick is not a dirty player. So let's get that out there. He's never been accused of being dirty or anything like that.
In my memory, and Bull will know because it was against the Bengals, I remember, and maybe I'm misremembering, it wasn't Minkah, somebody on the Steelers defense, and I could have swore it was Fitzpatrick, had 2 helmet-to-helmet hits against the Bengals in one of their games last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I should know, but it's not coming to me.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie.
I meant to ask you because I can't say definitively, but by my memory, I thought that
you may be right. I don't remember.
In one game.
Well, I thought it was dirty, just like a lot of fans did at first reaction. But after talking to Tyvis, and I talked to Dustin and Tyvis this morning, I changed my mind.
I wonder if it's a defensive offensive thing. I texted a lot of guys yesterday that either are playing or most of them are former players. And there was a bit of a trend where nobody was going to come flat out and say it was intentional.
No, look at that. Right there. He's throwing at
No, that's not the freeze.
This is right. This is he's throwing himself at a thigh right now. Would you say that?
I would say that he is
throwing through it to the thigh.
for the lower body.
Okay. Well, first of all, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Nick Chubb, ain't no DB going up head up with Nick
better
Chubb.
not, because low man wins.
My point exactly.
And that,
so when he threw himself, his initial throw was at his thigh.
The freeze frame that I have a problem with was the one where the helmet is buried directly in the knee. That's the one that I didn't love.
He didn't know. I don't even think that's what it was.
Someone sent it to me. Someone froze it in that moment.
I thought it was his butt that hit.
That's what I'm saying. I thought it was his back that hit.
Here's what he said. The helmet is a protective device, not an instrument for delivering punishment.
His helmet never made contact. See that? His helmet never makes contact. It's his arm and butt and his back.
Oh, I can't almost.
It's so hard to look at.
Yeah, it is.
You know, he kind of, what he did.
But you see how he's thrown.
He rolled up on him.
Yeah, he threw it, and that's what you do.
He hit and rolled.
Yeah, because if you hit a leg, you're trying to shoot the legs from under him, and if you miss, if you roll, it'll at least sweep his legs from under.
Have you guys ever seen an injury where the network refused to show the replay?
Did they show the Theismann? Remember Theismann?
Over and over again.
Yeah, that's true. Nobody cared back in those days.
It was brutal. But back then, hits were celebrated.
Yeah, right.
To answer the question,
that was still the most gruesome one I've ever seen.
You did agree that it was a little reckless.
It might have been reckless. It might have been a little reckless,
and
but
I
understand.
Yeah, there's all kinds of layers to it.
Yeah.
Intentional, I don't think it was intentional.
Yeah, no.
I don't think it was intentional. But most of the guys, it's funny, the offensive guys, not all of them, if there was a trend, the offensive guys did not like the hit. They didn't like it.
Defensive
but the defensive guys, oddly enough, were like, no, that was good.
That's what you got. It's a running back. It's Nick Chubb. You got to go low. So, I mean, to me, when I seen it, I'm like, oh, okay, he was throwing to go throw at his thigh. The problem was he flew and his trajectory went down, and Nick Chubb planted that leg. And usually when you do that, the leg just gets swept from up under him, but it was
planted.
Yeah.
There was nowhere for it to go but backwards.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I don't like about the whole thing was that he rolled up over him. Because it's one thing to hit the player low to try to bring him down, but there was an absolute intentional after the hit. He rolled over.
Well, I think that's a common thing, because if you don't wrap up, if you throw yourself, not these running backs, they'll just bounce off. Like it'll boom and bounce off. But if you roll, it'll roll their leg and they'll fall over you. That's the thing. I hate to say it like that. But that's what it is.
I wasn't there. I texted with two people that were this morning, and they both said, they're both Browns fans, they both said the same thing. Steeler fans, for the most part, they heard people saying things around them, but it was drowned out by the overwhelming chant for Chubb.
That was classy.
Very classy. Yeah. And I want to give Steelers fans some credit. Steelers fans, oddly enough, will always have a special place in my heart, because when the last game happened between the Steelers and the Browns at Three Rivers, Steelers fans stood up and gave the Browns a standing ovation after the game as they were leaving the field. They knew that the Browns-Steelers rivalry, for all intents and purposes, was gone. There was no indication at that point that the Browns were ever going to come back.
Was Rooney one of the two that voted against the move?
I think he was. I think I'd heard something similar to that
Mike
before.
Brown, or no?
I think you might be right on that. Yeah. I think you're right. But I just remember that ever since that day, I've just thought, you know what? Steelers fans get it.
They get it.
And I thought the way they were chanting Chubb, I thought that was pretty special. And they even commented on the broadcast last night.
Yeah.
It was a classy act by Steelers.
By the way, on an unrelated note, real quick before we get back, because I know you want to talk about running back options. How about, I think we may have mentioned the stat itself, but not that it was a record. Once again, the Browns are part of a dubious record, guys.
Yeah, I heard this.
Part of the record.
The Steelers.
Is it the one for their offensive production and the win?
Fewest yards gained in the fourth quarter by a team that overcame a deficit in this century.
Yeah.
This century.
Which I don't know that the NFL existed over 100 years ago.
Steelers had negative 7 yards of offense in the fourth quarter and came back to win.
And Bull, the NFL wasn't called the NFL 100 years ago.
No, well, I don't know if it says this century, so I'm thinking, we just started a new century, right?
Okay. So in 21 years, 23 years.
24, right? Does 2000 count as last century or this?
It does.
I mean,
oh my God. Think about it. When you have minus 7 yards in the quarter,
you should get wiped.
you usually got to win on a defensive score.
What was the Browns? Do you know that? Did they have
I don't have that handy, no.
What do you mean, what was the Browns?
in the fourth quarter, how many yards did
it was Dan Rooney, but it was not Mike Brown. Ralph Wilson was the other one.
Oh, Ralph Wilson.
Yeah.
That's typical.
Bad job, Mike Brown. You should have.
Yeah, why would he vote for it?
That's a terrible job by him.
At the end of the day.
Actually,
let's.
You want to? Wait, I want Bull to give that number that Steve sent the chat. The Tennessee pass defense number. Just before we go to running backs.
And we have that coming up, but real quick with Chubb being out, let's just assume it's for the season. Kevin Stefanski speaks at 12:30 today.
Let's
and I'm
assume.
sure he'll officially
we don't need to
confirm
assume.
that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do the Browns need to bring in another running back option? And if so, who? Or are you guys comfortable rolling with Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong?
Well, you definitely got to have 3 on the roster. So let's get that situated right then and there. So they definitely have to bring in the guy. Obviously, the favorite names right now is Kareem Hunt. I think Jonathan Taylor is obviously one. Cam Akers. But to me, I think that if you're going to bring in a running back, I would bring in a guy because as crazy as it sounds, I'm decently comfortable with Jerome Ford because I think he brings the speed element.
I love Jerome Ford.
He brings the speed element. He can catch the ball out the backfield. If number 4 is going to be the one doing everything, you need a pass catcher out the backfield, but you also need a guy that can run between tackles. And I think Jerome Ford showed that he can do that, and he got that long speed. I would bring in a guy that can get things done on the short yard and the goal line situation.
So bigger back.
Yeah, because I think that's what we lack.
So
Pierre Armstrong is all right, but he definitely got stoned on his first carry. He got stoned on the one.
Now,
so
would you call Kareem Hunt today?
Yeah, I give him a call. I mean, that's why Kareem Hunt played it smart. He knew that some running backs get injured every year. He knew if I did not sign right now, somebody's going down. I'm gonna get more money. He would obviously be the best option because he knows the system. He knows.
And I think the fans would cheer that.
Yeah, they definitely cheer him. He's a hometown kid.
Yeah.
But I mean, Fournette. I take Fournette for the short yardage gun.
Fournette's out of gas.
I think the only thing about Hunt is that we did hear some things that it didn't end well between the Browns and him. And maybe they don't want him in the locker room. I don't know.
You still need a dog.
I think in the end,
you need a dog for the short yardage.
I think they're going to bring in an option now who may not be sexy and see what they got in Jerome Ford. Yeah. And if Watson plays better, where you feel like maybe you're a legit contender again because he's playing like a real quarterback, then you get more aggressive.
You go all in for Taylor maybe at that point,
or could they trade for Cam Akers of the Rams? Rams have essentially given up on him.
If you trade for Jonathan Taylor, you have to give him a contract. And I guess with Chubb being out, if he never plays again, you will need a running back for the long run. And Jonathan Taylor is pretty proven, so that's an option. The Cam Akers thing, he just never materialized.
Isn't there character issues with him?
It's something's
going on
because I feel like he was supposed to get traded last year, and he did.
This happened last year and again this year. They're pushing him out. There's clearly a problem with him in the locker room. So that's something. But
when you look at it,
Steve sent to the chat, and this is an interesting.
Trey Sermon.
Yeah,
listen.
He had some moments with the Buckeyes, but he hasn't done anything in the NFL, has he? Who is he with? The Eagles?
He was with the Eagles. He got drafted by San Francisco.
Sermon? Yeah, he's done anything in the NFL.
No, he got drafted by San Francisco, and then he went to the Eagles last year. He's still not that. I don't think he's that in between the tackles type of guy that can get the short yardage. Is he?
I don't think so either.
So that's what I'm saying. Like I think Jerome Ford is cool enough to get a lot of things done. It's just the short yardage and the 4th and 1s and the 3rd and 1s.
That's where you worry.
Yeah. I need somebody.
And that's where they're going to find out just how good Nick Chubb was.
Yeah. I mean, Nick Chubb.
For anybody that didn't know.
No, you're going to find out how good Nick Chubb was because it was a lot of times that he was supposed to get tackled in the backfield and he still made something happen. He still averaged and found gashes, and he put the fear of God in a lot of defenders. And that's the one thing that scares me now. As a defensive coordinator, listen, I ain't up late no more. I ain't got to work. Yeah. Who do we fear? Who do you fear on the Browns offense right now? Nobody. Nick Chubb was the only guy that I was like, all right, he's a problem. He can win them this game single-handedly. Now that he's gone, whoever, listen, we got a game plan. Get after Deshaun Watson. The tackles ain't good, so let's get a good pass rush. Let's maybe put a bracket on Amari Cooper because he's the only guy that's a problem. Other guys, they got to prove me something. They got to win one-on-one coverage. I'm still waiting on DPJ. And for you to have a contract season and you ain't putting up no numbers and you letting punts go like that on a contract year, man, you ain't trying to get paid.
What was he?
You ain't trying to get paid. I can't believe that you was doing what you was doing.
Why did he let the punt go? He was under the 30-yard line, and he moved at the last second, and the ball went to the 5.
So typically, when you're a punt returner, they tell you to put your heels on either the 10, the 8-yard line, 8 or 10-yard line. If the ball goes over your head,
he was at the 30
let it go.
on this one.
I don't know what he was doing.
He was underneath it. He got one job.
Don't know what he was doing.
Catch the ball. He ran out of the path of the ball. The ball hit, took a bounce, and they got it inside the 5.
You got to have somebody else do that job.
He's not it.
You can't have him.
Like I said, typically for every punt returner that I've ever...
Marquise Goodwin could return punts.
No.
Why?
I mean, no. I don't think
He's got the linear speed you want.
That's fine, but it's a lot to... The initial thing is catching the punt. No.
He never did it.
No.
Yeah, I don't want a guy that's never done it.
What options do they have?
I don't know. I don't know what the options.
You might have to. They might have to work out some guys this week.
I don't know who they got.
You can't let 2 punts roll inside the 5-yard line.
He's. You know what? I'm going to generalize here. The talent that this regime has brought in, way more misses than hits. Way more.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I gave Andrew Berry, I think, a C when we talked about it before. I'm still going to stick with that for now.
Specifically, look at the wide receivers that they've drafted.
Well, drafted, yeah. I mean, so far.
Yeah, when I said brought in, I'm speaking specifically.
I still think as
draft.
a wide receiver, DPJ has been good value as a 6th-round pick. I mean, he was a 6th-round pick.
He's serviceable.
I mean, how many 6th-round?
But they've had 2 third-round picks that everybody in the league is scratching their head at.
Right. But David Bell actually played a decent game yesterday.
He did. He threw a couple of nice blocks.
Tillman hasn't done anything yet. He
Tillman is on a milk carton.
That's true. And
no, he is. I haven't seen him.
Yeah, we haven't seen that much. I have not been that impressed by the great Elijah Moore so far for 2 games.
I've seen moments, but not enough.
But it's 2 games.
Crazy to me.
They
had all these packages, all this running back stuff.
Yeah.
He was. And then we seen that him going against Denzel Ward and in training camp, beating him on routes and. Man, I mean, he's getting targeted, 9 targets, but 3 catches. That's not going to get it done.
You're averaging 4 yards a target. That's pretty poor.
We talked about in the preseason, and it was the Kansas City game in particular, that there just seemed to be a timing issue with Watson and Moore. He threw on the 3rd down pass in the preseason game against Kansas City. The little out route that Moore burned the cornerback on was short in week 1. They just seemed to be off a tad bit. For a guy who got as much hype as he did in the preseason with these special Elijah Moore packages, they're going to use him all over the field. He's the red zone X factor.
We had fans saying he was going to be 2nd on the team in rushing yards.
We had that. The chemistry between him and Watson just doesn't seem to be there like I would have anticipated it being there at this point, which is surprising me.
The only positive thing I could say about the passing game last night, guys, is Amari Cooper. Right?
And he wasn't even supposed to play.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper played his ass off yesterday.
He's a diamond.
That's the only I'll say David Bell was a positive.
But we knew that coming into the season. We said outside of Amari Cooper, Amari Cooper is the only guaranteed guy. Outside of that,
Bell is the only other guy I'd give a good grade for their performance yesterday. Elijah Moore was awful. David Njoku was awful and fumbled. Deshaun Watson, 3 turnovers, absolutely atrocious. And by the way, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, and I don't care. I'm not talking about injuries, by the way. And I did not say I wanted anybody to get hurt on the Steelers. You're a liar if you say that. I wanted them to get their asses beat up, and it didn't happen, unfortunately. But anyway, what I was going to say is...
You lost it.
I forgot.
You said, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but...
A lot of people are going to disagree. Elijah Moore.
People disagree with everything you say, so...
I can't remember now. I was so fired up about the idiots that were accusing me of being the reason Nick Chubb got hurt.
One of the flashpoints we've had today was the offensive play calling. You disagree with me? I mean,
I just don't know what the play call is.
Right.
You know, if it's it could be a good play call, and Watson changed it, or Watson made the wrong read, or
I think
the timing was bad.
Well, I think the problem is that people have been saying the same thing for 3 years.
Right.
So I think that's why people is like, at some point, maybe he do need to try it. Just give. But I understand why
Try
he
what
won't.
though? Try what? Like
Offensive coordinator.
giving up the play calling?
Yes.
But I understand why you wouldn't, though. But like I said, I wouldn't if I know my job is on the line. If I'm going out, I'm going out calling my own plays.
Here's why. Here's why. The anecdotal evidence is this. You change. Now, I know you brought in a lot of new players, but it's clear their attack and their approach is night and day. On the Taki sack, like that never happens last year because Joe Woods never sends a linebacker. I've seen plays by the defense this year where I can say, yeah, obviously the talent's better, but they weren't running that last year.
No, that's a fact.
So the defensive coordinator has his fingerprints all over this defense. They're just a different DNA if you cut them open.
He
They're attack. They're not
demands
passive.
some excellence.
I love it. They talked in the telecast how he said, if you're not celebrating after a big play, that's a loaf.
Ugh.
That's a loaf.
Yeah.
He's embracing, and they even said this afterwards, the Deion Sanders mentality.
Yeah.
You know, showboat, celebrate.
Yeah.
This is a hard job.
Exactly.
That's
That's
celebrate.
what I said on the
love
post
that.
game. Like
Now,
you telling a grown man that come to work and got to go through everything through a whole
you're not
week,
gonna celebrate?
that I'm not going to celebrate
Yes.
a big play? Yes,
Yes.
I am.
But here's my point on that. Because of the change, and I know they added players, but the offense did too. Because of the change, we're seeing an entirely different DNA on that defense. A different attitude.
Just the attitude.
Everything. It's an attitude. And the
the
coach
attitude.
brought that. You
Yes, he
always
did.
hear
Yeah.
the players take on the personality of their head coach.
Yes.
We've seen now into the fourth season of Kevin Stefanski as the head coach. Is the fourth season? 20, 21, 22. This is his fourth season,
Yeah.
right? We've seen what he can bring. We know what the offense looks like with 4 different quarterbacks in it. We've seen it. Generally looks exactly the same. Pieces have come, pieces have gone. They added pieces. I have seen enough of Kevin Stefanski calling the plays.
But Jay,
for the
my
I just have.
argument would be, why didn't you say that last week?
Well, I
'Cause of
said
the-
last
'cause
week.
of
You
the
remember
rain?
what I said about last week is I can't explain Cincinnati. I have no
I
explanation.
know that,
for it.
but nobody was calling for him to give up the play calling duties.
Why would you?
Before the season.
Why?
We
No,
can't-
no,
and
wait.
and
That's
then-
not true.
I'm about to say,
Brad, who was an everyday panelist, agreed with me on
That
this.
was last year during the
All
season.
last year, I kept saying the same thing.
Agreed. I know
don't want
that.
Kevin Stefanski
But
calling the plays.
I know you said that, but what I said is in the preseason, in training camp, everybody was excited, and nobody was saying Kevin Stefanski at that point should give up the play call.
Well, the reason is it's that decision has been made.
Okay.
It says the
so now
hands in
after
the bar.
one bad game,
No, it's not one bad game. It's 3+ seasons of watching with 4 different quarterbacks and a myriad of different wide receivers.
and how have those quarterbacks done in other places?
I don't care about
besides
that.
Watson?
Will. I don't care about
well,
that.
but you're making it seem like they're going somewhere else and playing great.
Baker Mayfield's done pretty
2-0.
well.
And
No, he hasn't.
Baker Mayfield
he's
right
done
now-
well in 2 games this year. He was awful last season.
He had some
Awful.
As
He got benched. He got cut.
You're right. He got traded.
I think he got cut. didn't he?
I think he
got
Okay.
cut.
And then the Rams picked him up, and on 2 days he went and looked like he
Yeah,
was
and then what did he do the rest of the time there? Nothing.
nothing. Well,
Yeah.
he did have one game, oddly,
Yeah,
that he had 24 completions and
awful
28
games.
attempts.
Overall, last year he was awful.
I don't want to.
He had his best season with Stefanski. Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
2020.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
By far.
Listen, I think as an offensive coordinator, I'm not sold that he's a bad play caller or a bad offensive coordinator. Here's what I'm sold on. This ain't it. I know it when I see it, and it ain't it. And so, like the defense wasn't it, what'd we do?
Changed it.
We went out, we made a big change at the top, and added some nice pieces, and I'm seeing a completely
I
different
think you're
reality.
totally underselling the piece change. The defense.
I'm not, no, I said we added some really nice pieces.
Even with Jim Schwartz, the defense would not have been this good through 2 games with the same roster
No way.
last year.
No way.
chance.
That's why when I
Thank
talk about
you.
this,
So when
listen,
I said, wait a
of
minute,
course
when I
not.
said that last year, and everybody was talking about Joe Woods, who by the way is 2-0, by the way.
I don't even know where he
Where's
is.
he
Where
the
is he?
coordinator?
Oh, the New Orleans Saints.
And they're playing great
They're
defense.
playing
Yeah,
really
they
good
are.
defense,
Yeah,
ain't they?
They are.
Now,
They are.
But so no,
Well, it's 2 games.
Listen, so same
like
thing
this
for
is
the
2
same
games
thing
for
for
our
Brown.
guy.
Now I will say this, Tyvis. Jim Schwartz is obviously a better defensive coordinator, and I think even with last year's talent, Jim Schwartz would have done a better job. But the idea that he completely turned it around on his own, no. He's part of it.
No, I would never let anybody get away with saying that. That's why I said they added some really nice pieces on defense.
Right.
Now, the linebacking core is the same. And the back of the defense, with
Well,
the
but it's not
exception
the
of
same.
Thornhill, is the same. But we knew where they were weak.
Yes.
And they went out, and to the Browns' credit, and you did this earlier in the show, they got stronger where they
By
needed
a
to
lot.
get stronger. By a lot.
By a lot.
Now, that allows them
And
to
the
be a little
linebackers
more
are healthy,
aggressive.
which they were not in the second half when the defense got
No,
even
but
worse.
at no point last year did I ever look at our linebackers and rave that we've got a great linebacking core, and I don't think we do now. I think they're serviceable.
And Aikman was talking about how good they were.
I know he was, and I didn't get it.
By the way, Joe Buck of all people. I'm not a huge Joe Buck fan.
I happen to be a fan of his.
I think now I can separate. Joe Buck is the best play-by-play guy to me, outside of Ian Eagle, who's my favorite. I think Joe Buck's.
But there's a personal connection that you have.
It's not even personal. One time he went on the air and he generalized about people that do what we do, sports talk type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought it was ridiculous. So he rubbed me the wrong way since then.
Yeah, okay.
And I think he's a little full of himself, but so am I. So whatever.
Ian Eagle. He's a
But-
really good guy.
Ian Eagle's a good talent.
I talked to him on the Browns.
Ian Eagle's the
radio.
best and a marvelous human being.
Yeah.
But I will say this. How Joe Buck, who in terms of pronunciations and sounding stupid, never happens.
Oh, at the beginning of the game.
Like,
Did you catch some mistake? First seconds of the game.
Well, no, I didn't.
He said that Kevin
Which one?
Stefanski came in here in a playoff game and won.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't see
Right
that.
off the bat. It was one of the first things he said. I'm
Wasn't
like,
it AVP?
wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yes. But even worse, he was calling him Koromora all game.
Yeah, he really struggled with JOK.
I mean, come on. You can't get
know.
that wrong the whole game.
It is a tough one, but you're right.
But yeah, he's
He's
pro.
better than that, and he rarely does that.
I know.
He rarely does that.
We got to remind everybody that if you need leisure or athletic wear for the fall or winter, check out Bird Dogs. They have shorts, joggers, sweatpants. They are extremely comfortable and fashionable. You can check them out at birddogs.com. Guys, we talked about the defense and how much of an improvement it's been from last year. Bull, are you fully buying into this unit 2 games in, that it is officially sustainable now after last week's?
I still have to see more because 2 games, you don't have the whole picture through 2 games. All right? Now, the Bengals, they played great against the Bengals. We know Burrow's not completely healthy, but you know me, I don't make excuses. You're on the field, you got to play. Mm-hmm. The Steelers' offense, in my opinion, is absolute trash. It's trash. Kenny Pickett again showed me nothing. I was impressed by Pickens, but nobody else. They should be playing Jalen Warren, I think, more than Najee. Najee
clearly,
stinks.
in my mind, he's clearly a better
Clearly, but to this point, I'm buying in. I got to see more before I'm ready to say they're the best defense or the second best defense. I got to see more than 2 games. But I'm buying in that their floor of what they are is pretty high. That I'm buying into.
So, and I know that you always say, well, I got to see more. Everybody's got to see more.
Yeah.
But we only have what we have right now.
What I've seen has been very impressive.
And here's what they've done. They have, against 2 divisional opponents, allowed a total of 15 points.
1 touchdown.
They should be 2-0.
They should be.
The defense is fine. If I'm being nitpicky, because that's what we do, they got to make big plays. They got to turn the ball over. Now, they did have the pick at the 19-yard line, and the offense vomited down their chest.
They knocked the ball. Dezelle knocked the ball out, and they got the fumble, which was wild how that whole thing unfolded.
I'm just saying.
That play was crazy.
I know it was.
The ball kept
like the
flying.
first day of junior high football practice.
I thought it was a scene from the movie Little Giants.
Nobody wanted the ball.
Dale Pitt looked. I'm like, what are you doing?
By the way, I don't think. Am I crazy, or is Grant Delpit played better than anybody else?
Grant Delpit's the standout player of that defense for me.
He slides on it. Yeah, for sure.
He's been the best player on the defense.
Bull, I think
it's like he just threw the ball there.
But see, Bull, he did. But here's the problem that I have with the Browns defense. Because again, I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
I think they are going to be a top 5 defense at the end of the year. I do. I've only got 2 games to judge that on, and the Pittsburgh offense is terrible. But they looked great against a Cincinnati offense that did not struggle against Baltimore like they did against Cleveland.
Yes, that's correct.
So but here's my problem with the defense. And I'm using the sliding scale here.
Oh, man.
I'm looking at Myles Garrett. I'm told he's the best defensive player in the NFL.
He did not play well enough yesterday. I thought he played great in the first game.
Oh, he had a great game. He always plays great against Cincinnati.
He does. He's got to be more consistent.
Stefanski have Cincinnati's number. But here's the problem that I have with this defense. When the Rams were in the Super Bowl against the Bengals, and the Bengals needed a play at the end,
Aaron
Donald stood up 3 times on that last drive and made superhuman plays that made me say, how did he do that? Last night when I was watching T.J. Watt, he made plays that made me say, and by the way, he was gassed.
Yeah.
He was gassed. But when the ball was snapped, it was like he got a recharged battery and shot out of a cannon. He made big plays in big moments. And that my thing against Myles Garrett is this. I know you can do it. I know that you are, on the talent scale, in the top 5 defensive players in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I need you to raise your game in the big games, in the biggest moments, like Aaron Donald, like T.J. Watt. I just need to see that.
Yeah,
and he just disappeared.
I think that's fair, but in the end, the Steelers had 7 yards of offense in the fourth quarter. The defense was zero part of the reason why they lost this game.
Bull, I even said I'm being overly harsh.
It is. I
am judging Myles Garrett on a Hall of Fame scale.
That's fair.
He is a Hall of Famer. Period. End of discussion. Myles Garrett is going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I need to see my Hall of Fame player step up and make huge plays when the game is in the balance. I've seen him do that a number of times in his career. I need to see it consistently. Every time I watch T.J. Watt, I'm watching this guy saying, this guy doesn't quit. It's the Energizer Bunny. He's making plays. And I know he didn't make the play that saved the game, but he was there to scoop it up and take it in. His first touchdown, by the way, that surprised me.
Yeah, I actually thought Alex Highsmith was their best
amazing
player. He played a great game.
And you know what?
Why? Because of who he was going against.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's why.
Exactly right.
If you look at who DeJuan Jones had to deal with, because he was having to deal with Watt. I thought he wasn't terrible, considering it's his first start and you're playing one of the best pass rushers.
Yeah.
He wasn't great.
He's going to exhale against the Titans because everything's going to seem easy after last night.
But Jedrick Wills had the easier option, and he stunk.
To Bull's point, what do you do at left tackle? Because he is not the answer.
That's what I'm saying.
James Hudson, we've seen him.
He's not the answer either.
This front office has addressed pretty much everything. Anything that we eyebrow raise.
It's like whack-a-mole.
They got to let him walk at the end of
this,
you can't
Never.
You can't.
He's not resigning here.
So he's currently on the 5th-year option?
They picked his 5th-year option up.
So next season is the 5th.
Titus, his contract is fully guaranteed this season and next season.
Wait, I thought this was his 5th year.
No, they just made the announcement in the offseason that they were picking up his 5th-year option.
You are stuck with Jed Wills for this season and next season.
I mean, you're not stuck with anybody. You're stuck with a financial problem, and you have to replace it.
That's true. You're spending over $20 million next year on Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin at tackle.
Oh, my God.
That's not good.
Yeah,
Is the construction of this team flawed?
I'm old enough.
I never really. When you said that, that hit me in the heart like a sledgehammer. We're spending $20 million next year on Wills and Conklin.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. It's a little. I feel sometimes I'm like, I can't keep saying this.
Hold on, let me watch this.
Yeah, go ahead.
and
he just stopped.
He got a kick.
Watch him stop the fumble. All the other offensive linemen go running after, at least making an effort. Jed just stops. Even Joe Batonio from the left side comes running his big body over.
He got it.
Who's the only one not in the picture of the O-lineman?
Wait a minute. Let me see.
Jed Wills.
This is the angle. First, watch him get beat off of the line.
He ain't getting no kick. Ugh.
Oh, my God.
I mean, how about that effort? And then he stops.
Yeah, he do got a problem with doing that. That boy be spectating.
And I'm sick of this. I don't care that he took full responsibility. That doesn't save Deshaun Watson. That was the game. That was the game. Game over right there.
When I'm looking at that tweet, what's he gonna say? He has no choice but to take full responsibility. The film doesn't lie. His feet were stuck in cement, and Highsmith went around him like he was invisible.
That's right.
So the big story has been.
Oh, that's big of him.
Everybody's been talking about running back. You got bigger fish to fry. That right there. There's no way that you're about to tell me that you're about to come back this season with that. There's no way.
Even with Jedrick Wills sucking,
it has to stop.
Even with DeJuan Jones at right tackle, it's about Deshaun Watson.
I hear you.
It all comes back to him in the end.
I hear you.
If he cannot recapture the player he was, nothing else matters. No, we can talk about structure, and tackle, and running back.
No, that left tackle is bigger than that quarterback situation.
What?
How am I run anything? How can I run anything if he gonna get beat like this?
The Bengals had Jonah Williams playing left tackle the last 3 years for Burrow.
He ain't get beat like that.
Oh, yes. He stinks. He's as bad, if not worse, than Jedrick Wills.
Bull would know. He sees every snap of the Bengals.
He's just as bad.
So Jonah Williams is worse than Jedrick Wills.
He's just as bad, if not worse. I mean, they're the same
And Bull said this earlier, and I will echo it.
He better get the tight end over there or something. Y'all worried about DeJuan. You need
Did
to
you guys
get on the
notice
left
that
side.
they had Bell lined up opposite the tackle on a number of plays last night?
Wait, what do you mean?
As the chipper?
Oh yeah, he's a Big Ten guy. Purdue, he had to do it. He ain't.
Can I get a tight end?
He's not afraid. He ain't afraid.
Why aren't I getting tight ends?
Jay, he's chipping with receivers and putting 3 tight ends for 5 open sets.
Why?
Jed Wills.
Question.
Why?
If I'm the Browns, Jed Wills got a partner.
Mike, you're right.
Getting back to the point, Jay, though. Getting back to the point, I think you're about to agree with me. So I want to hear this.
Common ground, baby.
About the fact, I think, that good quarterbacks overcome bad O-line.
Yes, absolutely.
And including Deshaun Watson. Mike, how many times was he sacked in Houston?
His last season in Houston, 49, which was second in the NFL.
You said what I'm
49. How about 2019 or whatever? 2019.
Super Bowl like that.
In 2019, Mr. Bull.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson was sacked.
Let me ask you this.
A league second 44 times.
And they were 12-4 and went to the playoffs. That was the year they won the playoff game.
Yes.
And then they lost to Mahomes when they blew that big lead. He was second most sacked player in the league and overcame it.
What are you after this season? What's the goal of this season?
What do you mean?
For the
Browns. Personally?
For the Browns.
You want to make the playoffs.
So that's it.
No, that's step one.
I'm just saying.
You can't get to step
What's
two.
What is the end? No. What's the end goal? What do you
want?
To
win a Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you do that without tackle?
It's harder, but you can.
No. Give me an example.
The Bengals were one play away. Did they
win it? I said,
didn't,
give me an example.
You're saying they couldn't have won?
They didn't?
No, I know they didn't, but the game was a toss-up. I mean,
if the game had 2 more minutes on the clock, they may have.
Woulda, coulda, shouldas don't do nothing.
It's harder. We all agree it's harder.
It's not like they got blown out.
Here's what I know for sure.
They didn't get blown out.
That's fine. They didn't win it.
Tyvis.
Patty Mahomes, the best quarterback of all the world,
killed in that game.
Didn't do it.
I agree, but here's what I know, and I know you guys will agree with this. We could argue whether you can win a Super Bowl with Jedrick Wills. Here's what I know for sure. If the Deshaun Watson we're getting the rest of the year is the guy we've seen through 8 games,
we ain't.
No chance.
You're losing more than you're winning.
No chance.
Cut that out.
No matter how good their defense is, they might be decent. They might even grab that 7 playoff spot, maybe. But with the way this guy's played, they got no shot of winning anything.
I don't know that it's as traumatic, but I felt a little like the Jets when they lost Aaron Rodgers. And the reason I say I don't think it's as traumatic because the quarterback is obviously it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But I felt their pain in that we just lost our best offensive player. And we got a great defense. And by the way, the Jets' defense did not answer the bell in week 2.
No.
And I hope that we don't see a similar rub-off and decline with the Browns' defense because now they'll have 6 days for this to sink in before they play again.
Remember,
5 days, really.
And there's no excuse because we know Tennessee's a one-dimensional team. Ryan Tannehill's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Their whole offense is Derrick Henry.
Give the stat that Steve sent the group about Titans passing defense.
Mike, if you take number 11.
Oh, here we go. Is this it? 29th in the league, I believe?
It's 28th, but their average opposing teams are throwing for 281 passing yards per game. Against the Titans, they're only giving up 65.
Now, who have they played against so far? They played
New Orleans and the Chargers. So Justin Herbert and Derek Carr.
Justin Herbert, who's good. Derek Carr, since last year, has looked like – I know they won, and the Saints – but
they didn't win. I don't think they won necessarily because of him.
Do you know who the leading yard getter was in that game rushing?
Shaheed.
No.
Rushing for both teams combined. The leading rusher in that game.
No.
The third string running.
You guys know it?
I didn't look at that box score.
Titans-Chargers game?
No. In the Saints game last night.
I paid no attention to that game, and I was furious.
I didn't, but
when they double boxed that for 5 minutes, what are you doing, ESPN?
I love when I pick it myself on YouTube TV.
Of course, but you control that.
But not during a game I'm focusing on.
I'm watching the Browns, and I got to see a third of the screen is a game that's in the third quarter.
Yeah, who cares?
What are you doing, ESPN?
That was stupid. You want to do that? Do it during the commercial. Throw it in there.
Right. I just didn't get it.
The leading rusher in the Saints-Panthers game last night was Taysom Hill.
How many yards?
He had like 80 yards on like 7 carries. 70 yards. He had like 8 carries for 70-something or 80 yards.
Did he sign a big contract?
Jamal Williams got hurt.
Yeah, he did.
You know, Kamara's suspended for 3 games,
right.
and Jamal Williams got hurt. And
So they were using him as a running back then.
yeah, and he had more yards than Miles Sanders from Carolina.
Isn't he making like $100 million?
No,
No,
not
it's
that
not
much.
that big.
But they
he got a
paid
big
him.
contract, but not that
They
big.
paid him some silly contract.
Yeah, it was nuts.
I thought he was like, if he became the starting quarterback, it was like, I thought it was like $100 million.
It might. There
Oh,
might
he
have
might
been
have a
some
clause
sort of
in there with
provision
an
there.
escalator. What
But
it
that
used
ain't
to
ever
drive
happening.
me nuts. And Sean Payton's genius credentials needed renewed after I saw him do
Doesn't
this.
he feel like Gruden coming back years later a little bit?
The game has moved on.
Yes.
But I used to hate.
They was about to come back and tie it up.
I used to.
Yeah, but
no,
they
I'm
blew
talking
a
about,
huge lead.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
they
talking
did.
about Sean Payton in Denver. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm
yeah, but
talking
that's what you're
about.
talking
Drive me
about.
nuts. When Sean Payton, offensive genius, would take a future Hall of Fame quarterback off the field
A lot.
for a lot
Yeah.
for Taysom Hill. And I always used to watch when Drew Brees was running off the field, and I would just try to read his body language, and he was a true professional. He never sulked or showed any. But he's got to be thinking, really? You want to bring me off?
Well,
Because I'm going to the Hall of Fame.
He was a runner. Taysom Hill get the
you
ball.
think it was
and the other team knew what he was going to do when he
You'd
came
think
in.
it was like Reggie Bush in his prime the way he did that.
I know. I just never understood it.
Eh.
It was the same thing when Pete Carroll decided to put Reggie Bush next to him and give the ball to Lendale White
Yeah.
and lose a national championship because of it. He needed 1 yard.
Yeah.
Surprised Reggie Bush wasn't better in the NFL. Although if Reggie Bush had come out 10 years later, probably he
Yeah, the
would have
game
been.
the game has moved a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he was a good pass catcher too,
Yeah, it was
wasn't
great.
Mikey
Yeah.
has a read.
Yeah, Mikey.
We're going to do a PCC read, get some super chats in here, and then we'll put some final thoughts on the Browns-Steelers Monday Night Football game. If you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils at Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions, starting at $18 and up. Plus, full benefit packages, paid time off, and a sign-on bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. We got about 20 of them.
Mike, real quick before your super chat, I got to mention.
Okay.
We got plenty of super chats.
No, you're good. You're good.
There's one thing I was just thinking about everything for the game. I feel like there's one thing we didn't mention. Dustin Hopkins,
You're right. He got
missed.
buried.
right?
If he makes that field goal, they don't need a touchdown.
Right.
at the
Now,
end of
to
the
be
game.
fair to him, he did make a 55-yarder later, which
And
was a
looked
good
great.
kick,
And bull, that looked like it was good for
right down
70.
the middle.
Says the
And
man.
overall, he's been good. So I'm not
Yes.
going to kill him for the one miss.
No. But it needs to
would
be
have been a
pointed
different
out.
game.
It
You
needs
know,
to
who
be pointed
knows?
out.
They
But-
say
Yeah.
the Browns have checked in on Cam Akers.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They wouldn't have to. You're not going to have to give up much to get Cam Akers. All right, Mikey, what do you got? Let's hit us with the super chats.
We got a bunch, and we'll probably have 3 or 4 minutes at the end to give our final thoughts. But special teams as a whole just was not good
Yeah.
yesterday. On the punt, too, they called the timeout because they had 12 men on
I
the field
saw
for
that.
a punt.
Yep.
And then DPJ didn't catch it. It landed on the 1 yard line. That was the worst
Literally every
20
play.
seconds of
Special
possible
teams
outcomes for the special teams.
were underwhelming yesterday.
Very much so.
Boy, he on the run for his life.
All right, first one comes from Preston Herring. He says, I'm still sick over this loss. I wish I had a voicemail to leave so I can vent. The Guru says Deshaun was mad they missed the face mask on him. They got into it on the sidelines. Damian Frederick says defense is elite, but Watson has to play better. Prayers up for 24. Jonathan Mann says, preach, Jay. We've had decades of misery. Let us marinate for a minute, Bull. Phil Bowman gifted 5 memberships. Shout out to Phil.
Wow. Thank you, Phil.
Levi Robin.
Levi.
You guys always say that Miles is better than Watt, but every time the Browns and Steelers play, Miles is silent and TJ goes off. TJ is Defensive Player of the Year, a sack record, and better stats than Garrett almost every year.
I changed my mind
I
last
mean,
night.
I about changed my mind.
Mayfield,
last night.
Baker Mayfield has played better than Joe Burrow when they've gone head-to-head. Who do you want?
I'm not even looking at his head-to-head. I mean, I know that comment was in the games that Watt and Miles play, one player jumps off the screen. He does, no denying that. I'm looking at the entire body of work. I'm saying that I think Myles Garrett, physically, way more imposing. I think he has more, if not the same, gifts as T.J. Watt. I am saying that the intangible is this and the motor, and T.J. is as good as it gets in the NFL for me.
Okay, I'm not
me.
changing my mind on it, but let's wait till the end of the season. if T.J. Watt has a better season than Myles Garrett, I will flip-flop the two. But I can't do it.
I agree with that because this is the first time that
no excuses for
Myles got
Yeah.
their support and
He's got the
cast
dogs around him now.
So now we know.
But you know what? I mean, last night, this is what was impressive to me. Last night, we talked all leading up to the game. No Hayward. He's got no safety net.
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Larry Ogunjobi looked like.
By the way, Ogunjobi, early in the game, I'm like, this guy's playing like he's going to Canton.
Oh my goodness!
He took Wyatt Teller to the shed.
Oh my God!
Oh, I know he did.
Although the Browns ran for over 200 yards.
Did we cut him?
They're 198, I think, but 70 or whatever.
You can't just throw that away.
No, you can't. It happened. It happened.
Why?
But the same thing to me to the Steelers' long pass.
Right.
Like it never should have happened. He should have been tackled where he caught the ball. And if I'm being fair, Ford should have been tackled too.
How is it that we lost Ogunjobi? What happened? Did we not?
He went to Cincinnati. We didn't pay him.
Oh, we didn't pay him.
He's not that good. He made plays last night. He's been
He's
very
a serviceable
player.
player. We have better
He's
players
serviceable.
now.
Yeah.
He would have fit in really nicely last year
Yes.
with who we had.
Yes.
No, I was just
He's
wondering.
a nice player.
I was just
but
wondering
he's
what
not
A player
he's
who
not
last
special.
night I felt like he was saying to Cleveland,
Yeah.
y'all let me get away?
Yeah,
This is
sure.
what you missed out on. That happens a lot when a player
All
goes
right,
against
next
his own
one's
team.
from Buff Gaming. He says, Bull, I love you, bro, but Jay's right on this one. Also, how many drop passes were there last night? Too many bad throws. Play
Jay's right
calling
about
seemed
what?
Weird. Still, I'm not panicking because
probably
of
the
one
let
loss.
us marinate.
But I came around on that.
You
That was
apologized.
2 hours on that.
And you said, you know what? You're
My
right.
point was, I was trying to cheer people up. But I get it. You're right.
Yeah.
You want to stew. It's a hard one to get over.
As
yeah.
losses go, and we're prisoner of the moment, that we
Yeah.
all are, that we're fans, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I want to say something right now about that. We lose our minds.
Of course.
I say things in the moment while I'm watching games that when I look back on texts that I sent to the group, I'm like, oh, it's a terrible job by me. What the hell was I thinking?
You did that?
Oh, all the time. I'll read
ba-
some of the texts I sent last
Well,
night that I'm embarrassed about now.
Oh,
Jay,
well,
even-
I'm banned, so I don't
Jay,
look at it.
You are banned.
Even worse than
Sending
that.
trash to our group.
Even worse than that. Think about the things we say to our TVs.
Oh my! Did you guys see? There was a video that went viral last week of a daughter who set up her phone and recorded her father, who's a Steelers fan, watching the game. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen because it could be any one of us.
Of course.
He's yelling, "Fire!" He's a Steelers fan. Fire the offensive coordinator, and he's yelling, you
and
you're
cursing, and
Yeah,
just all
that's what-
kinds of inappropriate things.
And in the moment, we're all prisoners.
Yeah.
I sent things last night that I look back on this morning, and I'm like, oh my God, that burns my eyes to read that now. So, fans have a grieving period that it goes through, and it depends on the game. Kansas City playoff game a couple of years ago, it lasted days for me.
Of course.
This one I'll be over by tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I will say,
Because of a 3rd and 12
the grieving
run by a
period to
quarterback.
me,
yeah, exactly.
the grieving period is longer for Nick Chubb than it is for the game.
1,000%.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for me, that's what
Well,
I
that's
was.
going to be lingering. That's
Because
never.
everybody loves Nick Chubb.
Nobody's gonna
Everybody.
get it.
And the thought that we may never see him in a Browns uniform
sickening.
again.
Yeah.
I was almost, I had a friend over that was watching the game with me, and I told him, I go, I don't know if I can watch the rest of the game. I feel physically
It was depressing.
ill. I literally thought I could vomit. And it was because it wasn't for the game and what
Right.
it meant for the team. It was for Nick Chubb.
Well,
was
that
the
leads us
human
right
side
to
of
the
it.
next one. This next super chat comes from Bill Rodewalt. Is there a charity we can support Nick Chubb's name in to show our love and support for
great
I
Ford?
saw
Let's make something
Yes.
good out of this.
Sir Yacht.
Sir Yacht tweeted
Sir Yacht.
something or posted something on Instagram.
I saw it too.
Yeah.
He posted on Instagram. I think he said I just gave $25 or $200.
It was $250, yeah.
$250 to a cause, and I think
Yeah.
it's the shoes, right?
Right.
He had
I don't remember what it was.
It was a
but
picture of Nick Chubb
look
with
at
the
Sir
shoes.
Yacht. Yes. Look
And I
at Sir
think that
Yacht's.
was his charity.
By the way, Sir Yacht is in the middle of going to 50 state capitals, all 50 state capitals in 30 days. He's in the middle of
In
that.
30 days?
Apparently so, yeah. He was. I think he was flying to Alaska during the game last night.
He was.
Oh, wow, bad planning. Of course, you're going to have to miss some games.
Or maybe he had. I think maybe he was able to watch it on the plane, or
he
I don't
really
know.
comes up with some creative
Oh, my God, that guy's
promotion. He's talking
amazing.
to every Browns quarterback since they came
I
back.
know. He's amazing.
He's doing extended
Very
interviews with
impressive.
We
all
are
of
about
them.
to drop the link to that Chubb charity.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, I take that back. We're going to put it on tag board. We're not going to drop a link to it.
Are we going
If you
tag
take
board full on that, or only half tag board?
Nope, we're taking tag board full.
Oh, tag board full. Yeah, there you
First
go.
There it
Candle.
is.
It is at First Candle, spelled exactly how you'd expect. An organization he has supported in the past that is committed to ending sudden infant death syndrome.
Awesome.
And that's also, I could actually confirm that Nick has worked with them because on the back of the Nick Chubb cereal, there's a tribute to
the box.
First Cans. Actually, can you guys reach it? It's over there.
Yeah.
Don't get up.
We
I'm
wouldn't
not going to be able to reach it.
But
no.
on the side of the cereal box, there is a little tribute to, I
Yes.
guess, someone
I
in
know
his
I'm a little
family or
more
someone he
flexible
knew.
than Jay and Tyvis, but even I can't reach that.
Earl-
That's okay.
Go get
Earl's
it.
got us.
And, Bull, will you just read whatever you see on the side? Because I know it has something to do with that.
Yeah, it says Chubbtown, Georgia that's the name of his town?
Yeah, it's named
Yeah,
after
it's from
his
Chubbtown.
it's named after his people too.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It's
That
nuts.
is awesome. Chubbtown, Georgia is a historic town established in 1864. I need my glasses. Founded by Nick's ancestors, this Georgia town became self-sufficient as a result of several family-owned businesses and farms coming together during the Civil War in memory of Junior Stocks Chubb, who must have died of
Oh, and there's
SIDS.
a picture, too.
Oh, that's horrible.
Wow.
Junior Stocks Chubb.
Yeah,
That's
you know
very
what?
sad.
Let's
So first-
make something
first
good
candle.
come from
Yeah,
that.
it says first candle underneath that. It says first candle is committed to ending sudden infant death syndrome. People know it by SIDS and other sleep-related infant deaths while providing bereavement support to families who have experienced the loss. Oh,
I lost
can't imagine
two
anything
first
worse than
cousins.
that.
to SIDS.
Support Nick Chubb.
Same. My
It's
aunt lost two babies from it.
firstcandle.org. Firstcandle.org.
I'm donating
It
as
is
soon as
the
I get
drop in
home
the
today.
chat.
Very good.
Getting on my computer and donating.
Couple more super chats from Donnie M. He says, "Hey guys, is there a reason we didn't chip TJ Watt on every play, regardless of what side he was on?"
They needed to chip Hightower
I just,
instead of
yeah,
TJ
Hightower
Watt.
was one-on-one.
I think that was.
With a
I think that
terrible
was
left
the
tackle
thing.
on
You
the
had
biggest
to,
play of the game.
They had to pick their poison, and they
Yeah.
said, "We Garrett and Wills needed it the most." I mean, good night.
He was stuck in cement.
God, that was.
And Highsmith
bad.
went around him like he was shot out of a cannon.
By the way, did you see, on a much lighter note, did you see when they showed the video clips of DeJuan Jones playing basketball in high
Yeah,
school?
yeah.
Yeah,
He
that
threw-
was
did you see him throw
hilarious.
the
He threw
oop
the
to
dunk
himself?
off of the
They
backboard.
caught it and dunked.
Big fella can
He's
ball.
so much bigger than those other kids.
It was unreal. You know, Orlando Pace was the same way.
Yeah.
He's from my hometown, so I followed his basketball career as well as his football.
Yeah.
Go
He
Bucks.
took his high school basketball team to the state championship.
Go Bucks.
Orlando Pace.
I think
similar size.
DeJuan is going to be good, though.
I do too.
Don't you?
Long term, I think it's
Yeah,
going
I
to be
think
great.
yeah for
Yeah.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
with Conklin being out, I think that right tackle spot is his for the taking. They got to figure something out about that left tackle.
But I don't know what they
I don't
can
know
do
how you
this year.
fix that mid-season.
That-
Is there
that-
anybody
yeah.
out there, Bull, that's not currently signed that was at the
No.
end of their career?
Doubt
I know we
it.
put Taylor Lewan.
Somebody just signed Jason Peters again, right?
I think
Seahawks
Seattle
did.
did.
Wow.
He's 41 years old.
It's crazy. I mean,
Hey, we got 10 more, so we got to
Yeah,
get
go
through
ahead,
some of
Mikey,
these.
sorry.
From KR Thunder, Bubba, Kevin, and all the team captains need to answer honestly for last night. It's not just Chubb they lost, but the hopes of the Cleveland fan base in achieving greatness. Broady's bottom line says Deshaun actually had a real offensive coordinator in Houston. Kenny Moss said play calling was bad. We let them blitz consistently without any screen game after Chubb was out.
That is
what
very
disturbs me.
true.
That's what
Very
they
disturbs
have
me.
not had a screen game.
Make an
They ain't
adjustment.
thrown the
Remember
screen
what I was
yet.
thinking of when I was watching it was this is a do-over when Hudson was getting blown by every single play and Baker got decked 9 times, I think it was,
Yeah.
against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's defensive coordinator has to be sitting up there laughing saying, God, this team doesn't make any
But
adjustments.
what I would argue is that, and yes, it's fair to criticize Stefanski, certainly for a lack of screen game. It's been a consistent issue. But it really felt like those last 2 drives is when they completely cratered.
He was under pressure on every drop back.
He was.
He never had time to stand back there.
but
and
it was worse those last 2
It
drives.
was way worse those last
Yeah.
2 drives.
I just,
Because the game was
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
balance,
crazy,
and their
yeah.
defense wanted it, and they were bringing it on every play.
well, they knew they had to win.
But I saw Bell as a chipper a number of times on Watt, and I'm sorry, that's a mismatch. Watt's got to be looking at him like, your help? This is who they're bringing for help?
Yeah.
Like, you've got tight ends, and then to have Hudson, or to have Jed Wills
Wills.
naked,
Same guy.
naked on the biggest play of the game. Game's in the balance. And you've got him standing there on an island with a guy who's consistently beat him all night.
Well, you know why? You know what was interesting? I think on that play that I showed y'all, wasn't that play action? than that play I showed you?
I don't think so.
So the thing about it is they can't run play. The play action is not going to be effective no more because it's not Nick Chubb.
They don't have to honor it.
Yeah, it's not Nick
Well,
Chubb.
but if you could still do that.
You can do
Yeah.
that, but
I'm saying there's a lot
Not as worried about the back.
You've got Superman that they're
Yeah,
play actioning to. You've got to honor that.
By the
and
way,
now they don't.
Every time, can we? You know that? I don't know if you can find this quick, Mike. And I know we got more super chats. Do you have that picture you consistently show of Jed Wills? By any chance?
Yeah, it was.
Every time I see this picture,
It was play action.
I feel like there's no way this guy could be good at the offensive line.
They got to cut that.
Because
they
of
should
this
just let
picture.
him
We
just
have his
block.
montage.
He
He
don't need
didn't
no
honor
punch.
it.
Can you show the Jed guys? Look at
Don't
this.
even play. Just
Look
block.
at this, guys. Show the Jed Wills montage. This picture. Every time I see that picture, what offensive lineman wears the condom on his head?
He looks like Shrek right
Like,
there.
how much? Dude, is Joe Patonio wearing the head condom? Is
I don't
Joe
know.
Thomas wearing a head condom?
Yeah, we got to let this.
Well, that was the New Orleans game.
I don't care if it's a negative 5,000 degrees.
I will say,
I feel like
in the stadium that day.
now maybe all the
I
other
don't know
guys
how
were
they
wearing
were
them.
playing
Were the other
football.
guys wearing them? I want to know, Mike.
I'll do some
Deep
research.
dive.
I'll
So
do some
it was
research
the New
after
So
these
my
last few
point
super
is,
chats.
Yeah.
what's the point of play act? Let him block.
Yes.
Like don't play
Tyvus,
action.
you're absolutely
just
right.
let him block. Because he's
Right.
not doing any. They're not about
All
to
right.
come hit him anyway. So just let him block.
I got a couple more super chats.
Super chats.
Kevin Somody, Somody, says, "What are your guys' thoughts? I felt like Pittsburgh was targeting all game, and then no pass interference call on the last play."
The no pass interference call was.
Because it was uncatchable?
It was.
I mean, clearly
it was a
bad.
pass
Someone
interference.
else say that, okay, if it wasn't pass interference, then it was
should've
holding.
been
Yeah, it
holding,
was something.
yeah.
I'm not sure what the
Ooh-wee.
rule is if the ball's uncatchable. Do they not even call holding?
They don't call.
I think
it's
defensive
sure
holding,
holding is
defensive holding is
yeah.
irregardless of where the ball is thrown. It can be away from
True.
the play.
You're right.
So,
That's true.
But
There probably should have been a
everybody
call
knows
there.
that call isn't going to be made on the last play of the game.
Yeah.
They're not.
That's why I said you can't leave it in the
ref's
ref's hands
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And you could nitpick every play, and as a fan, you're always going to think your team got screwed by the officials.
Funny that the game on the line, they went to DPJ of all people.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. Who's your money guy?
Rackison1187 says
Number
it's
two.
DT
Don't overthink it.
Aura time.
Aura.
No,
DTR.
definitely
Let's
we
not
got
even
two
start
more.
that.
That makes me laugh every
To
time.
put a cold shower on that
Well,
thought right now.
If
Here's
Deshaun
the hard-
if Deshaun is suspended for a game,
well, that's the only way we'll see him.
DT.
It's official.
Aura.
Deshaun will not be suspended, by the way.
Oh,
The
the
NFL
league
came
has
out,
already
he
said.
will not
Oh,
be
that's
suspended.
unusual.
That was
Will
fast.
not be
That they would
suspended.
act that fast, and B, that they would come out and say
Yeah.
no
Well,
suspension.
they said the
It
Browns.
happened during the
Nick
show.
Chubb went
Okay.
down. It
They
was
gave him a
bad
fine?
enough.
One point on the. I bet he is fine.
They said he could be fined.
Yeah,
and
I
will
bet
not
he
be
gets
he'll
suspended.
definitely
fined.
be
One
fine.
thing on the DTR stuff,
And we got three
and
more
this is
days,
just
so
the
it gotta be
cold,
quick.
hard facts of where we are. You've got no choice but to play Deshaun Watson. You're
course.
paying him.
230.
You're playing him. It's 230 million reasons why
End
he's
of
going to
conversation.
always play. Period. So don't start the DTR talk.
Not interested.
It's not going to happen. Period.
No.
Minus an injury or a suspension.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right, last three. Set apart. Laz says all these quarterbacks around the league are starting off slow. Watson's going to be just fine.
No.
No, they're not.
Not as slow. Not as slow as him.
Y'all gotta cut this out.
And here's the difference too, Jay. Even if you want to say, well, Burrow's had a slow start, and keep wanting to call him Phillip Rivers.
Mahomes has had a slow
Mahomes-
start.
All I
There
know,
have been
The difference
quarterbacks,
is,
though.
those
Baker
guys-
Mayfield's not off to a slow start.
all
Jay,
I
but here's
know
the ball. Forget
is
Baker.
Tennessee secondary is terrible. and
The
if they
other
can't
guys
get-
we want to compare him to all have track records last year, year before.
Yeah,
of great.
They haven't
He
thrown
doesn't.
8 straight games where your highest game of yardage is what? Was it last night?
He hasn't
Was
played.
that his breakout game?
Joe Burrow hasn't played a great
Might be.
game
wasn't that your
since the
headline?
playoffs.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes hasn't played a great game since last year's playoffs.
He played
Deshaun
like
Watson
a
hasn't played a
fiddle.
great game since about December of 2020.
Well, they gave a stat that he hasn't had a come from behind win since 2019.
That's fact. I got two more. We got to get
Yeah,
these
go
last
ahead.
two
So
in.
that's a ridiculous message by that guy. Go ahead.
Bob Byler says the reality is we can't pass right now. We might not have a running game. The Chubb injury changed everything for the worst. And last but not least, Damon 4x4. He gave us a what's more likely or what number is higher. Bull, I'll let you answer this one. What number is higher? Deshaun Watson's completed passes last night or Tyvus's complete sentences without being interrupted today?
Oh, absolutely, Deshaun.
That was very funny, Devon.
Oh, that's part of a sports show is people jump on other people. It wasn't just me. Jay cut him off, too.
We're equal opportunity.
Don't blame me only.
We are equal opportunity.
I'm a cutter
I wasn't
offer.
blaming it on you. I was giving you the chance to answer. You had first chance to answer.
Yeah.
And Jay answered first.
So what happens when you sit in the middle?
No, it's what happens when you're on this panel with Bull and I.
Yeah, we're loud.
That's not true because if I'm sitting, if G Bush usually is the conservative one, and I can still jump in. Now that he's not here, I'm fully taking on the G role.
I never thought of G. Bush as conservative before, but
He is. Y'all ain't that
Compared to us.
Yeah, when y'all.
okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
That is it. No more super chats. We got through 20.
We got
super chats
1
in
minute.
19 minutes.
I want all of us to use one word to describe what we saw last night. Mine is gutted.
Abysmal.
Heartbreaking.
Terrible.
Devastated.
Disappointing.
Sad.
Is that everybody?
I think
Mike?
that's it.
Mike, what do you? Mike just said the Browns.
Somehow,
Now that
Rich Eisen put a tweet out there that he pulled down because he was getting eviscerated.
Yeah.
But it essentially said the football gods have decided that the Browns and their fans cannot have nice things.
I just thought it was somebody said to me, "Are you trying to get him fired?" I'm like, "What, are you crazy? I'm not trying to get anybody fired."
I just thought it was in poor taste because
with
you're
Chubb's
talking about
injury.
Nick Chubb, and you're making a joke about it.
Right.
Like there are certain things you can joke about, and then there are certain things that are off limits.
If
And
they
watching
just
a man
choked the
whose
game
career
away,
may have
that's one
ended,
thing. Yeah, right.
That's not a joking matter.
Yeah. See you in overtime.
Pick.